Gearing up for a whole nother morning of engaging discussions, critical analysis, and most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab a cup of coffee, Denver, and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. We've got an absolutely jam-packed show for you. We'll dive into this Olympics opening ceremony controversy. Happened Friday evening during the opening ceremonies. Want to get your thoughts on that. Were you offended? Or was it overblown? I'd love to hear. 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971. Mike Johnston, in an interview with the Denver Post, also saying, I'm doing my best to make sure that Denver doesn't become San Francisco. But is it too late? Has it already become San Francisco? We'll cover that in the 7 o'clock hour. And then an interesting development out of Jefferson County where there's an effort to keep your table refunds. This is called debrucing. And you'll never guess who they hired to do that for you. Well, Brittany Pedersen's husband, Ian Solveri, is the guy that they've hired to try to do that. And there's a lot of eyebrows being raised with regards to conflict of interest because Brittany worked with a number of the county commissioners in Jefferson County and is, she's now a current congresswoman. And her husband getting a grant from the county, getting a contract from the county for $300,000 in order to try to convince you, the voters of Jefferson County, to allow the government to keep your Tabor refunds. And then in the 9 o'clock hour, the drama continues with the Colorado Republican Party as we host both Ted Harvey and Steve Peck to give us the latest updates on what happened over the weekend. So a whole lot to cover, plus all the Olympic coverage you're going to need. This is going to be an absolutely fantastic show. Let's start with the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning. Happy Monday, Jeff and Billy. 62 as the sun comes up in Denver, expecting a high of 98 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story, President Biden will propose term limits for Supreme Court justices. He'll also push for a constitutional amendment to override the court's recent decision that the president enjoys some immunity for official acts. All campaign moves to get the lefties excited.
I want to condemn the evil attack on Israel that took place earlier today. A missile launched by Hezbollah killed at least a dozen children, young children. And they were playing, as you heard, on a soccer field in Israeli territory on the Golan Heights, a place that I recognized during my administration as under Israel's sovereignty. It was a big thing. I've been trying to get it done for 72 years. I got it done in about 1 hour.
Former President Trump said the attack on Israel over the weekend by Hezbollah, funded by Iran, would not have happened if he were in office. Michael Oren on Hugh this morning.
There's 100,000 people who have been uprooted from their homes, their lives. I'm sitting with people who are engineers and biologists who've been unemployed because all of their jobs have gone away. It is a war zone. It is a disaster area.
Horrific story over the weekend. Now, Trump says that he has a plan to regulate cryptocurrency. He spoke at the Bitcoin conference in Nashville over the weekend where he told crowds if crypto is going to define the future, I want it to be mined, minted, and made in the USA. He also said he would fire Gary Gensler.
On day one, I will fire Gary Gensler and appoint a new SEC chairman.
He's the SEC chair, and Trump said that he was surprised that he got all that applause for that move, and he will definitely do that if elected.
That's Blake. I was a little surprised to hear that audience too. I didn't know. I don't know the crypto world all that well. It is a whole dedicated little world.
It is. I mean, you talk to some of these guys, man, they are so smart and they are focused and dialed in.
Yeah.
And when Trump hit, man, he flipped the switch on that one, didn't he?
Oh,
and
my
they
goodness.
wouldn't stand. They wouldn't sit down. I mean, it was a standing ovation for that one. So he learned a lot over the weekend.
Seriously, could you imagine if Trump wins because of the crypto crew?
Right? Who knows? Hey, man, whatever it takes, right?
Yeah.
So no, I'm right there with them. I completely understand a lot of their arguments that they talk about, and I think it's great. But I think they have I think he has a section of, like you said, some voters that will definitely be dedicated to him because of that. 7 hours ago, I don't know if you saw this, Jeff, Elon Musk posted on X that Google has a search ban on Trump. When you typed in President Donald, Duck would come up. It has since been lifted, but he says, I mean, this is the type of interference that we're talking about with Google.
That's not by accident.
No, absolutely. And they'll continue to do this. But I think he said, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he said, I'm going to buy Google so this doesn't happen.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, it would. So get ready for all these little tricks and shenanigans going on over the next 4, 5, 6 months. Vice President Harris heading to Houston this week for the funeral of Representative Sheila Jackson Lee. Harris will attend Thursday's service for a longtime friend and sorority sister. It's day 5 of the campaign for Harris, and the media just glazing her.
They purposefully pronounce her name wrong.
If now the country is offered all of Joe Biden's policies with someone who's essentially half his age and they can't get over the line, what does that say about the American people and our willingness to have a black woman as our president?
We hear all of what we know are going to be a lot of misogynistic, sexist, racist attacks on her. We got to be ready. So are you all ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. All about policy. It's just if you just ready? Crush her with the policy. Yeah, I'm ready. I forgot her name. Honestly, I just cut that a few minutes ago. I forgot that lady's name. I think you know who she is, but you've seen her face. Oh, just annoying on the View. But it is policy. I mean, we cannot go at her personally. And I don't think Trump and Vance will from here on out. Just crush her with everything that she's about. She's such a leftist, such a socialist. All right, Venezuela. Speaking of that, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, dictator, and opposition candidate Edmundo Gonzalez are both claiming victory this morning in the country's election. The vote was marred by accusations of foul play and sporadic incidents of violence. The country's elections authority said Maduro won with 51% of the vote, while exit polls seem to point to an opposition victory. Yeah, that's what corruption looks like, almost like they installed a candidate. All right, 1 person is dead and 6 others injured following a Sunday afternoon crash on I-25. It happened near Larkspur, and officials say 6 vehicles were involved in the crash. The northbound lanes of the interstate were closed between exit 167 and 172, while crews cleaned up the scene and reopened several hours later. Nobody is seriously hurt, thankfully, following a restaurant fire in Centennial at Bono's Barbecue in Centennial. Fire officials say it started in a chimney in the restaurant's kitchen. The building was evacuated, and firefighters extinguished the flames just after 10:40 in the morning. 5 people at the scene were evaluated for smoke inhalation, but nobody was taken to the hospital. Police think road rage was the motive of a shooting over the weekend. They say a man was wounded Saturday morning on I-25 near the Auraria Parkway exit in Denver, and everyone involved has been contacted, but at last check, there are no arrests. The investigation shut down several lanes of traffic while officers collected evidence. The victim is in the hospital, but expected to pull through. News brought to you by Lair Fireplace And Patio, Denver's premier source for everything fireplace, patio, and grills. Locally owned and operated since 1954. Online at LairFireplacePatio.com. 58 in Castle Rock, 59 in Centennial, 62 in Denver. And what do we have here? Rockies. Hey.
On the ground. Ball game. So the Rockies make some noise in the ninth, but the Giants hold on. They sweep the Rockies in a 4-game series.
5-4, the final. The Rockies lose. Jeff and Bill continue. Good Monday morning. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Here's your 710 5-day forecast. The heat advisory is in effect through tomorrow. It'll be sunny, hazy, and very warm and dry. Mid-90s today, hot, upper 90s Tuesday. Mid-90s Wednesday and Thursday, and temperatures mid to upper 90s on Friday. So it's going to be a hot week with only small chances of isolated thunderstorms. Weather sponsored by branchplanning.com. Secure your future retirement with a reliable income stream. Annuities can provide guaranteed payments, giving you peace of mind. Get a complimentary review at branchplanning.com or call 720-651-9800. Meteorologist on day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
All right, the Olympics kicked off over the weekend, but not without controversy. Today's show reporting Olympics opening ceremony tableau sparks controversy among Christian community. The opening ceremony's artistic director, Thomas Jolly, confirmed that Leonardo da Vinci's The Last Supper was not his inspiration for the performance. What a bunch of baloney. The 2024 Paris Olympics opening ceremony was filled with memorable moments, from the lighting of the cauldron to Celine Dion taking the stage. But one performance has prompted mixed reactions. The 4-hour ceremony kicked off the start of the Summer Games July 26th, with athletes gliding down the River Seine and performers reenacting internationally historic moments. During a controversial tableau, drag queens and dancers lined a long table in an image that some thought resembled Leonardo da Vinci's The Last Supper. Following the scene, some called the imagery a mockery and insulting to Christian people. Meanwhile, others found the moment a celebration of the LGBTQ community and inclusivity. Apparently, celebrating inclusivity includes mocking Christians. On July 28th, Paris 2024 spokesperson apologized if people have taken any offense. Clearly, there was never an intention to show disrespect to any religious group. On the contrary, I think the artistic director, Thomas Jolly, really tried to celebrate community and tolerance. We believe that this ambition was achieved. If people had taken any offense, we are really sorry. Then they had this nude dude, like painted blue, and they went to celebrate a Greek god. So let me describe what happened. It's late in the opening ceremony. It's probably 3 hours into it. And they get to this point where they have a runway and they're going to feature drag on this runway. And the camera pans and you have a person seated. And I'm trying to remember her name. she's a lesbian DJ, and she's seated with Christ, like Christ, with a little kind of thing around her, the aura around her head, like Jesus would be during many like medieval paintings, that type of thing. And then to all sides of her are people, 17 people, and it looks like the disciples from Leonardo da Vinci's Last Supper. And then they bring out this kind of blue dude that's nearly completely nude to represent a Greek god, Dionysus, the god of winemaking, fruitfulness, and ecstasy. And then in addition to all the drag characters surrounding this Christ-like figure in the middle, you have a child on the far left side, probably 10 years old, dressed in a yellow dress. So Christians, from my perspective, are rightfully outraged over this. This was one of the most symbolic symbols of Christ painted by Leonardo da Vinci, The Last Supper. You remember this was kind of featured in that Tom Hanks movie. What was that? I forget the name of the movie, Billy. The Da Vinci Code.
Yeah, Da Vinci Code.
Yep. So it's that same painting, if you can remember that. So they feature this, and they do it all with drag and LGBTQ people during the Olympics. And you got a lot of frustration, not only from the bishops of France. The Conference of French Bishops said this ceremony has unfortunately included scenes of derision and mockery of Christianity, which we very deeply deplore. But you also get Muslim countries, Egyptian countries that felt that this was offensive as well. So there were, Billy, did you watch the opening ceremonies?
No, but I saw some of it afterwards, and I'm surprised on what people thought was the controversy, because that's not what I was expecting. I was expecting there to be mad over Gojira.
Who's that?
Yeah, exactly. That's the point. That's why nobody paid attention. Nobody paid attention. Gojira is one of the heaviest metal bands on the planet.
Oh, is that the one with the headless?
Yeah, and that's why I thought people were getting mad. It's just Gojira is unique, and it's a French band, and they are very well known. And so I saw they were playing in the opening ceremony, so I went, "Oh, this is going to get people upset." And then when I saw the controversy, I'm like, "I'm not Gojira." Wow, I was very surprised.
What's about Gojira that's so?
They're just very heavy and aggressive, and the idea of being, I'm not going to play the music this early in the morning. It's not nice. So I don't need to wake people up that way. It's just the idea of this. It's okay. In many ways, it's the same thing and same sentiment that you're expressing right now. Why did they have to do this? Whatever this is, that's what I felt was going to be made about Gojira. It was, why is this loud, noisy music I don't understand being played? Why can't they get Katy Perry? That's what I kind of felt. that was going to be the issue. And I'm surprised it ran right over them. And the fact that they made the South Korean Olympic team the North Korean Olympic team. That also, nobody's talking about. The fact that during the Parade of Nations, they announced South Korea, even though they're waving the flags and everything, they announced South Korea as North Korea. Nice job, guys. So
I did see North Korea. They did have a North Korean delegation.
Oh, yeah. And they announced them properly.
Yeah.
Not the South Koreans. And the Olympic Committee has already. I've seen the
Kamala
videos.
Harris did that.
Yeah, I've seen the videos and stuff of it. I'm not as upset, because I can see how people can connect it to Christianity and the Catholic religion. But it didn't make any sense functionally based on what they were doing, because it is the Olympics. And once I saw the blue dude, I'm like, oh, Dionysus. These are the Greek gods. This is a Greek meme, not a Catholic meme, because the Catholic religion
was a Greek meme.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because absolutely it was. Once I saw Dionysus, it made sense. I'm like, oh, now I get it. Because the entire time I'm kind of sitting there going, I see it, and I'm like, huh, that's a little weird, because it didn't make any sense. Why do anything related to Catholicism or Christianity in this ceremony? It just didn't make any sense to me. I'm like, why would we make, of all the stuff they've been doing, why do we put that in there? And as soon as I saw it, I'm like, oh, okay. And they're all Greek gods. That's, if you go back and you look at all the people behind the table, they're all represented as Greek gods. The one that you're talking about with Christ, that's Apollo. Yeah, the DJ is Apollo, because Apollo.
I have not heard that at all, even from the creator.
Oh no, the creator has said that it was a depiction of of Greek gods and things. Yes, yeah, the creator has said that that was going to be the idea, that's the blue guy's Dionysus, and it was a party for the Greek gods, is the idea behind it. And the people on the catwalk, I don't think were drag either. It was the people on the sides, and you had people on either sides. And there are some Renaissance era paintings that do depict similar scenes. And the issue being, and the thing that for me was that changed my perception of it in some ways was on the table that they had people on the other side. That's nothing that's depicted in any of those religious paintings. But in the Greek paintings, in the Renaissance painting about the Greek festivals and things, and the celebrations of the gods, those are depicted. You do get that from the other side. You do have this table, and you have people celebrating on both sides. And so I just looked at them like, oh, they're Greek gods is what they're doing. While I think that it was not well done, especially with the what's it called? I want to say it's called oral, but I don't think that's right. I think it's another name. The thing that's behind them that we see mostly behind Christ in the paintings. I think it's another name. Oral sounds, that's not it. It's like A-U-R-A. I know
what you're talking about.
Yeah, something like that is what it's called. I don't remember the actual pronunciation because I can't spell it this early in the morning. But yeah, that's what I saw. As soon as I saw the naked blue guy, I was like, it's Dionysus. Yeah. And so that made a whole hell of a lot more sense to me.
To me, that seems even more offensive. So if you look at that, I guess you could look at that and go, that's not Leonardo da Vinci's Last Supper. I think it's so openly clear that that's Leonardo da Vinci's Last Supper. And then they put a Greek god in front of him and they celebrate him. This is where it's so bizarre to me with what France was trying to do. So this guy was given like $150 million.
Yeah.
And the world generally does not buy into the LGBTQ agenda.
Yeah.
Broadly. Right. And when I say broadly, it's China, Russia, the Muslim bloc countries, all of those, right? There's no gay pride parades in Iran or Saudi Arabia
I'm not
or
certain
Russia or China.
Unless you're going by population, I'm not sure you can say most of the world. I mean, I understand where you're going with, but you understand
India?
those are also different. I know, but if you're talking population, okay, then I can get behind that if you're saying most of the world.
Yeah.
Okay.
So help me understand and obviously you're not the planner of this, but what the guy that was putting this together was thinking, because it's had such, from my perspective, a pro-LGBTQ agenda. So you had this bizarre menage a trois that takes place partway through with two dudes and a girl. You have this scene, the drag scene, and then you have what's the lady's name with the pink pom-poms?
Again, drawing a blank.
Lady Gaga.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So 6 a.m. on a Monday morning. The engine is getting started. Okay, so you have Lady Gaga, you have all this drag performance, you have the menage a trois taking place. If the goal was unity, and a vast majority, from my perspective, of this world, from Pakistan, India, China, the African countries, are not interested in the LGBTQ agenda, why such the focus on LGBTQ during the opening ceremonies of the Olympics? How is that bringing about unity and all this stuff?
I question your use of the word focus because, and again, I did not watch the entire thing, and I didn't come away with it thinking, wow, that was a focus on LGBTQ. And if they're talking about unity, it would be strange if you did not include everybody. If the purpose was unity, it would be remarkably shocking. Like the idea being, if we would have said, hey, this is a celebration of unity, and we have no Asian people up there, that would be weird. That would be very strange. And if we talked about the idea of this being about cultural diversity and having no Hispanic people, again, that would be weird to not have all of it. So I'm not certain that I agree with the idea that it was the focus of the performance. But again, the other part of it, they're French. This is kind of what the French do. This is sort of what they do. They've always kind of bent political norms and also societal norms in some ways. And they do like to be a little bit shocking and into your face. And that's just kind of how they are. This is, it's what this, I am not surprised based on this being the presentation of, you have La Caja Falls. It's very famous. So the idea of, drag and this coming out of the French culture, not that unusual at all. In fact, if it wasn't somewhat of a weird presentation on the French opening ceremonies, if it was more traditional, I would have thought something went wrong, because it's France. They do weird things.
Do you feel after this, though,
frog legs. They frog legs. They looked at little tiny frogs and went, gonna eat those. There's no meat. They do weird things. They eat snails. They decide to eat snails, which is like slurping a booger out of a small shell.
Do you think they achieved the idea of unity, though?
Probably not, because everybody's got controversy behind it. But again, if you would have told me beforehand that the French celebration at the end of it was going to, and they focused on unity, was not going to have some weird stuff that people are going to upset about. Oh, no. I would have said yes. They're going to have some weird stuff. Absolutely. Because they're French. They're absolutely they will. They'll do some weird things.
I going back to my original point, I think this was a mockery of particularly Catholicism. And I find that within the kind of more radical elements of the LGBTQ community. I'm not saying everybody, because I think there are some that are respectful of religion, but I don't get it. This willingness to mock Christianity and mock Catholicism and somehow think that was going to build unity. I don't think they achieved it. I think it fell flat. Here's a guy that got $150 million. And out of that, he didn't achieve what he set out to achieve, which was, we're going to unite the world behind games and competition. I think he's having to deal with this controversy. I think it's been mocked. I think it was so mocking that even the Olympics organization had to take down the video off of some of the social media platforms because people were so frustrated by it. So I don't get it. Give me a call. Tell me what you think. 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971. 7061. What else would you expect from the French, to your point, Billy? But you're not mentioning the pale horse and the pagan cowheads next to the Olympic symbol. I didn't see those, so I must have missed those. Sponsors, this is from Jacqueline. Sponsors are pulling their ads in support from the Olympics. The world did not like it that much. I agree with that. I think there could have been a lot other. I do not think that Western civilization was celebrated that much. And it was Western civilization that has led to the creation of the Olympics, and the Olympics are kind of unique in the sense that they've brought the world together, right? So you have this unifying role, but the Olympics themselves are not unifying in the sense that there's only going to be one winner that goes home. So it is this very unique moment of meritocracy, like the height of meritocracy, and the world loves that, which is kind of a rejection of the leftist worldview. But I think it failed. So I'd love to hear from you all. Text messages are coming in, but feel free to give us a call. 303-696-1971. Were you offended? Billy and I fall on both sides of this naturally. Were you offended by what the director of the French opening day Olympic Games ceremony did? I saw it as a mockery of Christianity. Billy thinks no big deal. It was actually a promotion of kind of the Greeks and the Greek gods, and it's French culture. So
and if you think that it's Christianity in the Last Supper, call. Tell me why. Tell me how you have come to that conclusion, and it's not a celebration of the Greek gods, which would be more in line with the Olympics. So I'm curious how you came to that conclusion that it is the picture The Last Supper by Da Vinci.
Love to hear from you. 303-696-1971. Look, if you're considering selling your home, go with the team that is going to not only give you top-level service, but will also help you earn more from the sale of your home than any other agent. Gay Ribble is proven to get more for her sellers because they have ready buyers looking for a home in your area. They don't just make this claim, but they can sit down and actually show you their list of over 14,700 buyers. This gives you an immediate advantage. Sure, you can hire any agent to sell your home, but isn't it all about how much you put in your pocket after closing? And Power Home Team specializes in making sure you make the most amount of money. They will sell your home at a price or Gay will buy it, guaranteed. Reach out to my friends and realtors, Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team of Keller Williams by calling 833-301-SOLD. That's 833-301-SOLD, or go to gayhasthebuyers.com. That's GAYE hasthebuyers.com. We'll continue with your calls and texts. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We're talking the opening ceremonies of the Olympics and lots of text messages coming in. Andrew's saying, come on, you poor Catholics. After everything you've done to this world, you can use a little mockery. Also, I don't get why religious people are so offended. So my response to Andrew would be, if the opening ceremonies, and the French have done this, mocked Muhammad. Remember they did that in a magazine, and then a dude showed up and started shooting at the magazine. If they had done that, would you feel the same way, Andrew? If it's okay to mock Catholics because of all the bad things they supposedly have done in this world, would you be okay if they mocked Muhammad?
My guess would be, I'm not sure that Andrew's point would change. The only thing that changes is the response. And I heard that a lot over the weekend. Oh, they wouldn't dare try to mock the Islamic religion. And I felt it as if it was taking a shot at the organizers. And I don't feel it is. That's a denigration of, in my mind, of the Islamic religion. Mm-hmm. The fact that you would decide to kill someone based on perceived religious offenses.
Sure.
To me, that is a huge problem if you claim to be a Christian, because that's not how we go about things. And so the idea that you are going to have to visit capital punishment upon someone that you feel has wronged your God. Again, there's no adjudication process of this. This is based on how I feel about it. And if I feel the offense has been taken, then I am given the power to act upon that. And that I think that is more of a knock against the religion they're talking about, the Islamic religion, than a knock against the Paris organizers. But I saw it used as somewhat of a rock to throw the Paris organizers. And I'm like, no, that's a flaw in that religion. That has nothing. That's not a very good example in my mind of attacking or asking the question about the organizers of this opening ceremony in France. That's more of a question about the organizers of the Islamic religion and why that would be an okay thing to do.
Well, I agree with you in that. I think what people are pointing out, though, is that we live in a culture that seems to find it permissive to mock one religion and not others. So there's that component. But I've pointed this out. I remember I had a conversation one time with a former journalist over at the Denver Post about some remarks that were made one time at the Western Conservative Summit. And I said, have you ever noticed that it seems like the gay rights movement has progressed in historically Christian countries? That maybe Christianity brings with it a certain inherent tolerance that you don't get in Russian, that you don't get in China, and you definitely don't get in Muslim countries.
No. And that's exactly the reason why, when you talk about it, it seems like everybody's okay with mocking the one religion. For me, it's the idea of openness, forgiveness, and tolerance, of which the Islamic religion, in some parts, some interpretations, do not share those beliefs. And so for me, when someone is saying, oh my gosh, could you imagine what they would do with the Muslim religion? To me, that is actually highlighting. If this was, and I don't agree that it was trying to mock the Catholic or the Christian church, but if it was, this would be a reinforcement, in my mind, of the religion. The fact that we are okay enough with our religion and tolerant enough, and we can understand that you may be upset with X, Y, and Z, and it's okay why you feel that way. Now we can sit down and talk about why you feel that way, rather than the other religion. I mean, if you were trying to persuade a non-believer, you were trying to persuade an atheist or an agnostic and say, yeah, we've got these two possible, cohorts of large religions. There's a few others. We can do Buddhism and Hinduism, but if we're talking about belief in the almighty unitary deity, then you can go with Islam or Christianity. There's some stark differences in how they want you to implement that religion. And I think when Christianity at times allows itself to be the subject of derision and comedy, it reinforces that message. It becomes a stronger religion than one that demands retribution and revenge. For me, that's a very weak religion. That is a religion that cannot stand critique, criticism, denigration, or even questions about certain beliefs. That to me is a weakness rather than a strength. It's a strength to be able to get mocked and made fun of and to not respond in a violent manner. That's harder to do.
Do you think the LGBT community can be mocked without responding?
In some cases, yes. In some cases, no. And I think that it depends on how. And I believe that, it can be. But when you say things like they're groomers, that's more or less a bridge too far. Just like if the opening ceremonies would have come out with a giant placard saying Christians are groomers. That would be a targeted message that would be there, obviously to offend. But mockery and making fun of things and that idea, no, I think that there are some. But I do think there are some inside the LGBTQ community that take it way too seriously, that do come at it like the fundamentalists do in many religions. And that is a detriment to their side as well. Absolutely it is. Yeah.
Well, let's go to the phone lines. Dwayne Divine. Good morning, Dwayne. You're on the Jeff and Bill show.
Hey, morning.
Yes, well, as Dan Aykroyd said back on SNL, Billy, you ignorant nut. How can you not see the religious symbolism in all this?
Oh, I did. I said I did, but we
okay.
just disagree about the religion.
Oh, well, yes, let's go ahead and do that and blow the 8 on ours. The fact that I saw some of the best memes, the person in blue had a Burger King sign in that little chrome circle above its head with a burger between her fingers or his fingers or its fingers. Comedic gold. Comedic gold. This man has said in Stern magazine in Germany, I'm not only LBGTTQLMNOPQRST, I am really LMG. Okay, so he goes on, fine. You can do that. $150 million to do this situation. Gentlemen, I use this term loosely. I would do anything for $150 million to do. And if it upsets some people, I'd be like, oh, here's a fund here. I'm so sorry. It won't happen again because they're never going to rehire me. So I've got $150. Yay. Okay, I could see some of that. But to not sit there and see the mockery, to see the child amongst all of this.
Yeah.
And this is a continual thing with LBGT. Okay, fine. If you guys want to do this, I'm fine with it. Whatever. I mean, we all need something to get us together. And I'm, as a person who's alone, if somebody finds somebody, God bless them, or Allah bless them, or the deity in the universe and the whole situation, and Bob's lemonade stand, bless them. Okay, but when you bring a child into something like that, kind of rubs me the wrong way. And a bearded lady, really this bad because it reminds me of my aunt Emma Jean, and of course it was really bad. She was beautiful till 35. 36, the mustache came on 2 days later, the shaving of the face, not pleasant. Not pleasant.
Dwayne,
It was a bad
I
memory.
got to ask you this. We only got about a minute. So I used to work at the United Nations on behalf of persecuted Christians. The single most powerful voting bloc, if you add all the countries together, right, and it are not Western democracies, are not Christian nations, it's the Muslim voting bloc. They have the biggest sway at the United Nations because they have generally a common faith and they can all get together and they can vote. If each country at the United Nations is one vote, well, then they get together. They have the most power. Do you think France united the world in that reality by promoting such an LGBTQ agenda?
From what I've seen, and I still got my friend over in Kazakhstan, they're offended over there where she is. And from what I've seen worldwide, there's a lot of people who are upset. There's more Christianity now in the Oriental countries, China, Japan, Korea.
Right.
There's an increasing growth of Christianity there. The United States still holds a positive feel to it, although it is slowing down. It's offensive, and to do it because it's a Muslim or Bob's lemonade stand or whoever, when you mock somebody else's beliefs, it's just not right.
Oh, I got a question here, Dwayne and Jeff. This comes to us, a comment that I just saw on the text message from Doug. Rather than it be a representation of a Greek ceremony or a Christian Last Supper, is it actually, and I think he's right, more of a Rorschach test? Do you see in this what you want to see?
Well, I mean, when you sit there and look at a picture of a duck and it's got feathers and it's got a beak and it's got Daffy Duck looking at Bugs Bunny going, it's despicable. I would sit there and say the following: it's a duck.
Yeah,
okay,
but if we look at if you look at the art, the party that was going on is more representative than some of the Greek mythological art than it is of the representation of the Last Supper. based on who was there and what went on.
But even the Greek mythology still had Christian overtones, which is why we have all the different holidays following with different items. I mean, if you want to talk religion to me, I mean, I'm a pin. Okay, I have no knowledge. I just sit there and say, God, I need something new for the car, and somehow I have enough money to get something for the car. I'm not a scholar. I don't know anything else, but I didn't care for it. But I can say the blue bearded person terrified me. She triggered me. It triggered me. I need a teddy bear.
Bill, I got to ask you though. You're Roman Catholic. I was born Catholic, but I'm not. I'm an evangelical.
We still love you.
Y'all think I'm coming back, but look, France, Joan of Arc, the role of the Catholic Church in the formation of the modern day French state. Do you think that was honored and celebrated?
I don't know. Not sure. But again, is the role of this opening ceremony is to celebrate a religion. And that's what we're kind of looking in and seeing. And that's why inside of the filter, and I admitted it was my own personal bias. When I saw it first, I'm like, oh, are they doing something Christian? And then I saw Dionysus and a couple of other people in there. I'm like, oh, no, this is Greek. And I rethought it because of my filter, because my first filter was Christianity. And then once I saw how it played out, I went, oh, okay, this is supposed to be something Greek, which makes a hell of a lot more sense because we're connecting it to the Olympics. That's why.
But you had moments of French celebration, right? The Ménage à Trois, the Maria Antoinette without the head. I think that's who that was.
Yeah, that was.
You had moments of going, this is this is who we are. We're celebrating French history. Yeah. But I'll be honest, I didn't see anything that honored the Catholic Church's contribution to the modern day French state.
But if we have, so would you assume then that when the Winter Olympics are here, there would be a big thing about the Catholic Church, or do we celebrate the Mormon Church? It just would be weird. See,
it wouldn't surprise me if the Mormons honored their traditions and their religion.
The thing is, see, this is the thing, is we are upset because of how the religion was interjected, not the should it. And that's the question I have is should it? And the fact that it wasn't front and center, no, I don't matter. That does not matter necessarily to me. That it wasn't front and center, because that's not the purpose of these, the games. Yes, sir.
Dwayne.
One thing that we have to be very happy about in all of this was that there was no Monty Python's group that stood up and said, no one expects the Spanish Inquisition to all of this at the end.
Yeah, see, and it's interesting, Dwayne, and thanks for the phone call. That was some of the thing that I thought about when people were talking about, oh my gosh, this is mocking the church, this is mocking the religion. I went, wait until they see Life of Brian. That's going to be real interesting. Yes. Let's talk about that one. Yeah.
So give us a call. We'll continue this conversation. Dwayne, thanks so much. Dwayne's line will be open 303-696-1971. Was the opening ceremonies of the Olympics in Paris over the weekend a mockery of Catholicism or no big deal? And it's just French culture. Love to get your thoughts. Lots of text messages coming in. Feel free to give us a call. 303-696-1971. We'll continue with the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We're talking the opening ceremonies at the Olympics. Let's go to Marcus in Aurora. Good morning, Marcus.
Hey, good morning, Dave. I'm 66 and I feel embarrassed, but in all these years, I've never watched the Olympics. I've seen them on news clips and everything. But, now I got to see this. It'd be like the movie The Exorcist. You got to see this. It just draws you in. So, yeah, it's like Bruce Jenner. I didn't know who he was, and then he became Janelle Jenner.
Yeah, it was weird because it was 4 hours, right? And they're jumping back and forth between these people on boats, and it's raining a lot, and you have this guy, this kind of faceless dude running with the Olympic torch throughout the day, and then they would cut to these like little artistic things that would happen, whether it was Lady Gaga or this drag runway Last Supper thing that was going on. And so
or Gojira.
And yeah, right. And it wasn't like we're going to announce that we're offending Catholics, but people were all watching it and everyone went, what was that? All that. And so to your point, Billy, of it being kind of a Rorschach test.
Yeah.
It wasn't like they went out there and held signs that said, the Catholic Church has committed this great atrocity or whatever. But it definitely, to me, seemed to be a mockery of Christianity.
See, I've got to see this now. You guys got me curious. So
yeah. Hey, Marcus, go take a look at it, man, and then call us back and tell us what you think.
Okay,
super curious, man. Thanks. Talk to you later.
We'll continue this conversation. And speaking of Sodom and Gomorrah, is Denver becoming San Francisco? Well, Mayor Mike Johnson's going to do his best to try to stop it. We'll get into this and more. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
It is 7 a.m. on this beautiful Monday morning, July 29th. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. It's going to be a hot one, 98 degrees, sunny and hot. This is my favorite time of the year. Dog days of summer. Rodeos taking place, good movies. Billy, I watched Twisters with the family over the weekend.
Oh, how was that?
It's good. It's not the original.
It's the remake, yeah.
The dialogue, and it's kind of a sequence, or actually, you know, it's a totally separate movie. There's no connection to the first movie.
Really?
I thought maybe the daughter would be related to Helen Hunt.
Yeah.
The dialogue in the original one with Bill Paxton, I think that's his name, right?
Yeah.
Bill Paxton, Helen Hunt. And then you had, oh gosh, I'm totally forgetting the name of the guy who played kind of the goofy sidekick, who went on to do great movies. Anyways, the original Twister is better, but Twisters is fun. And it goes to show you can have a great, just kind of summer Hollywood blockbuster without bad language, without sexual activity, without overt violence outside of what a tornado's doing to people.
Yeah, they're popcorn. They're called popcorn movies. They're just the idea of it's a big tent movie that everybody goes and buys the popcorn and you enjoy it. And it's not solving any problems. It doesn't leave you with anything. But at the end, you just smile walking out of there. That's basically what it is. And it is, in all honesty, I think it is more difficult to do a movie like that than to do a movie that is telling a narrative theme. Because with the narrative theme, you know where you're going. The idea that you just want everybody to walk out at the end of it, it's almost like fun. Yeah, it's so much more difficult to write a story that doesn't have that kind of weight, but it has to have enough weight in order to get you all the way through the story.
So, Billy, I got two comments about where we are with movies these days. One, this thing clipped a Hallmark style narrative and made it a movie.
There we go.
So, right, and you know the Hallmark movies are all kind of the same, and I don't blame them. Because I read Louis L'Amour, and Louis L'Amour stories are all the same.
Yeah, they are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Louis L'Amour was little, young guy goes west, faces problems, rescues girl, defeat bad guys, wins girl, that type of thing. And with Hallmark, the main character is this young lady who deals with a tragic situation. So she runs off. She gets pulled back into her hometown. She meets the cowboy from Arkansas and falls in love, and everything ends up better. So that's comment number one. Number two, I want to talk about J.D. Vance's comments about childless cat ladies.
Oh, interesting.
So the storyline is the main character's, young single professional girl, and she goes back to her hometown and she falls in love with a cowboy and all that stuff, and everything's good and happy. So I have a solution to the childless cat ladies.
Yeah,
cowboys. It's always cowboys. We can solve all those childless cat lady JD Vance comments being offended. They just need a cowboy.
That's good. Okay, see if that works out. We can start that app this afternoon, but there probably is already an app for that.
Right. Find a cowboy. All right. Well, you've tuned into a very interesting Jeff and Bill show on 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Billy Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, center, crazy cowboys. It's a beautiful day in the greatest country in history, and we're gearing up for a whole nother hour of engaging discussions, critical analysis, most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab another cup of coffee and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Coming up after Blake Olson, the news, will continue to cover the Olympics opening ceremony, as well as an interview that Mayor Mike Johnston did with the Denver Post, where he said, I don't want to become San Francisco. Is it too late? Did Denver become San Francisco? And is there anything we can do about it? We'll cover that and more. By the way, Andrew texting in, can Cowboys save the Olympics? Yes, they could. And they're going to be there in Salt Lake City in 2034. All right. Let's check in on the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Good morning, Jeff. One of the great branding and marketing campaigns of all time is the University of Wyoming. And it says the world could use more cowboys. And so they agree with you, and I agree with them. And yes, the Olympics would be much better if everyone just wore cowboy hats. Okay, let's do it that way.
By the way, real quick, Doug texted me. It was Philip Seymour Hoffman that played the dude in the original Twister. movie.
Right.
And the commentary was just so good. It was so funny.
Really?
Because you had Philip Seymour Hoffman, you had Helen Hunt, you had some pretty big stars in that movie up and coming, and Twisters just didn't match it. But go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no problem. I love it. We'll talk about it soon. 64 and sunny in Denver, expecting a high of 98 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story, President Biden, yes, he's still president, will propose term limits for Supreme Court justices. He will also push for a constitutional amendment to override the court's recent decision that the president enjoys some immunity for official acts. All these are campaign moves to get Dems excited. The second man injured during the attempted assassination against former President Trump earlier this month has been released from the hospital. James Copenhaver was discharged Friday, according to The Hill. Trump says he will have more outdoor rallies in the remaining months of the campaign. Plenty of people think this is not a good idea, even though they say they're stepping up security. Trump spoke about the 12 children who were killed over the weekend in Israel after Hezbollah launched another rocket into the north. And the former president was also in Nashville and said that he has a plan to regulate cryptocurrency. He spoke at the Bitcoin conference where he told crowds he wants crypto to be mined, minted, and made in the USA. He also said that he would fire Gary Gensler. Oh, wait a minute. No. That's Gary Glitter, not Gensler.
On day one, I will fire Gary Gensler and appoint a new SEC chairman.
He said he was shocked by the response, standing ovation for that one. And that was the most surprising thing he has heard in a while. 8 hours ago, Elon Musk posted on X that Google has a search ban on Trump. So when you typed in President Donald, duck would come up. It has since been lifted as far as I know, but he says this is the type of interference Google took part in 4 years ago. Former VP Al Gore is endorsing Vice President Harris. Gore said on X Sunday that she's the climate champion that we need in the White House.
What is that guy doing besides getting massages and hitting on the masseuses?
Getting rides in his personal jet. Making sure the environment is clean.
I don't know. I just got that dude. It's day 5 or 6 or 7. I don't know. The campaign for Harris, and Cliff Sims, former special assistant to the president, says Harris's horrible record speaks for itself.
She is consistently on the side of criminals, not on the side of law and order. And if you're talking to suburban moms around this country, if you're talking to people in inner cities around this country, they want law and order. They want safe streets, safe communities, safe schools. Donald Trump is going to deliver that. And consistently, Kamala Harris has not done that throughout her career.
Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, dictator, and opposition candidate Edmundo Gonzalez are both claiming victory this morning in the country's election. The vote was marred by accusations of foul play by both sides, even though most people with common sense know that Maduro is the communist dictator who's helped destroy Venezuela. The country's elections authority said Maduro won with 51% of the vote.
Yeah.
Police think road rage was the motive of a shooting over the weekend. They say a man was wounded Saturday morning on I-25 near the Auraria Parkway exit in Denver, and everyone involved has been contacted, but at last check, there are no arrests. The investigation shut down several lanes of traffic while officers collected evidence. The victim is in the hospital but expected to survive. One person is dead and 6 others injured following a Sunday afternoon crash on I-25. It happened near Larkspur, and officials say 6 vehicles were involved in the crash. The northbound lanes of the interstate were closed between exit 167 and 172 while crews cleaned up the scene and reopened several hours later. The news brought to you by Lair Fireplace and Patio, Denver's premier source for everything fireplace, patio, and grills, locally owned and operated since 1954, online at lairfireplacepatio.com. 59 in Boulder, 61 in Englewood, 64 in Denver.
On the ground. Ball game. So the Rockies make some noise in the ninth, but the Giants hold on. They sweep the Rockies in a 4-game series.
5-4 Rockies lose that one. Like that dude's voice. Jeff and Bill continue. It's Monday morning.
47 and 50. You can't be too surprised. I'm going back to D.C. with MAGA on the ride.
I just have to get fired up. It's Monday. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Here's your 710 5-day forecast. The heat advisory is in effect through tomorrow. It'll be sunny, hazy, and very warm and dry. Mid-90s today, hot, upper 90s Tuesday. Mid-90s Wednesday and Thursday, and temperatures mid to upper 90s on Friday. So it's going to be a hot week with only small chances of isolated thunderstorms. Weather sponsored by branchplanning.com. Secure your future retirement with a reliable income stream. Annuities can provide guaranteed payments, giving you peace of mind. Get a complimentary review at branchplanning.com or call 720-651-9800. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
All right, continuing with some calls about the opening ceremony. So if you missed that, the Olympics opening ceremony tableau sparks controversy among Christian communities. Well, essentially what they did was they had a catwalk, and then on one of the sides of the catwalk was a series of figures, one that clearly, from my perspective, and I think a lot of Christians, was taking the figure of Christ. It was a lesbian woman. She sat there. She's a DJ. On either side of her were multiple drag performers. You then had drag performances taking place on front of it. And then at another point, they had a Greek god, a guy painted in blue that was supposed to represent Dionysus, the Greek god, and kind of celebrating, Greek philosophy and those types of things taking place there. And so the whole scene looked like it was the Last Supper painting by Leonardo da Vinci. And to a lot of Christians, it was very offensive. To the bishops of France, it was offensive. It seemed to me, watching the opening ceremonies, that there was a lot of celebration of LGBTQ, everything from the performers to the drag, to the walkway, to this thing in front of this thing that looked like the Last Supper. So all of it was kind of promotion of drag. My question was, and LGBTQ, my question was, where was the promotion of the Catholic Church's contribution to the modern state of France and where we are today? Where was the Joan of Arc? Where was the Notre Dame? Where was all the great celebrations of the Christian contribution to France? Because it seemed like they were very fine celebrating other aspects of France, the menage a trois, the kind of loose sexual culture of France. So they were fine celebrating that, not celebrating the Christian contributions to France. Others have seen it differently. Let's go to the phone lines. Ron Greeley, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Ron.
Morning, guys. Hey, for Billy to have the thought of the Greek because of the Olympics, is he Christian? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Yes, he is, and have been my entire life. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's good. I just don't see how. I suppose the part that I saw was like a freeze frame where it showed just the people from the Last Supper. That was what was being promoted at the time. Now, if they came in later with this Greek God theory, it's almost like, we want to give you a gotcha, a shock value. And then once we shock you, we'll follow up with this to kind of let you know that's really not what we're doing. But you know what? It's too late, because that has been seen all around the world as far as the Last Supper. What you did after that is regardless.
Yeah, I got a question for you, Ron, on that. And you did say accurately that you saw an image, a still image of, that moment that is captured in the performance. You didn't see, nor have you seen, the context of the entire performance. And the question I would have for you is, could the information outlets that you are reading, watching, and listening to be using that instant to draw a conclusion that may not be supported by the people that did the performance and created the ceremony in the first place? Could they be trying to use that image to help you draw an incorrect conclusion?
Well, you know what? That's a very good point. I did, because of all the controversy, it did cause me to go look up on YouTube, and I did see all of it. At that point, likely, if I go off of what you're saying, it was too late, because the seed has already been planted. I already see it from there on.
Yeah.
Now, whether or not it was intentional for them to say, look at what they're doing about the Last Supper in the freeze frame, and not wanting anybody else to see it, I could see that thought. However, the posing, the way they had the table, the way they were sitting, even if not, you could tell by the way the lady in the center is standing with that halo around her to try to make her look holy. It says it all. That says a lot.
Now, Ron, we do have numerous paintings from Leonardo da Vinci's time, the same time that he painted Last Supper, that depict celebrations that have people around tables. Some are clothed, some aren't. Some depict religious ceremonies. Some depict some things that are Christian. Some depict things that are Roman, Greek, and outside of what we consider Christian. Also, the halo that you talk about around the back of the woman's head, that does not only appear in paintings of Christ. It does appear in other paintings of both Greek and Roman gods, most notably Apollo, because it's the sun god. And so the sun god appears with a halo behind him often. And that's the representation, according to the designer of the performance, of what that woman was doing. And this is why I go back to what Doug has said earlier on text message, and I think he had a lot of insight, that this is a Rorschach test in many ways, that based on our own perceptions and our own values and filters, we see at first what we want to see, not necessarily what's on the paper. We take a look at that ink blot, and we decide what it is. Is it a butterfly? Is it a rat? Is it a duck? Is it an airplane? And I think that's what we're seeing right now, is that people are using this as a Rorschach test, and it's reflexive more on what they're seeing rather than the intention. Your thoughts on that?
Well, those are all real good points, but what I'm kind of curious of, if we're wrong on that thought, why did they pull it from their site? Did they pull it from their site because they're like, well, they caught what we were actually doing? No, we're just offending people. They took it wrong, but take it down anyway. I would tend to think that they accomplished what they wanted to. I mean, let's face it, this LGBTQ is at a level that is so shocking. When I heard Jeff talk about Sodom and Gomorrah, he gave a mention of it loosely. We're worse than that now. The Bible says that we will become worse than Sodom and Gomorrah, and we are.
Well,
Ron,
hang
when
on
we
a sec.
start having sex changes and everything like that, we're heading in the wrong direction.
Ron, hang on a sec here. I want to go back to a little bit where you talked about the organizers of the Olympics accomplishing their goal. What do you think that goal was? What did they accomplish?
Subliminals are so huge, right?
But wait, hold on here. Walk me through that. What's the subliminal message that they accomplished?
the blasphemy that they put upon the Last Supper, the disgust. It's offensive to Christians. Let me ask you this: if they were to loosely, or as very casually throw something in that would bash the Muslims, that wouldn't fly.
I know, but here's the thing. Here's the thing, though, is I understand, Ron, where you're coming with that, but that's not the defense that you think it is. And here's the reason why. When you say, hey, this other religion would come and kill people, it's not saying, gosh, that's why they made fun of the Christian religion, because if the Muslim religion, they'd kill people. That's why they did it. That's not a defense. It actually, that enforces that the Christian religion is more tolerant, caring, and understanding. That's actually good for the Christian religion, because Christians don't turn around and try to kill people that they feel have offended their religion. So it's not necessarily the defense that you think it is. But the other part is, you said that you believe their intent was for this LGBTQ thing. Doesn't that just prove my point and Doug's point that it's a Rorschach test? Aren't you seeing the offense that resonates most with you? Not necessarily an offense that was there on purpose. And the question being is, if it is the Last Supper, why do you have so many extra people there? And what's with the mostly naked blue dude who is a Greek god? There's also someone in the background that has a trident, I believe. I saw that. And that would be probably Poseidon. So why are those other people in the background if they're doing the Last Supper with Christianity?
Well, and I don't know what the term, I'm sure there's a term. It escapes me if there is, but it's when you bring in a little bit of everything to make the full picture. You're bringing in a little bit of the Last Supper. You're bringing in a little bit of Poseidon. You're bringing in a little bit of this Greek god, that Greek god, and you're meshing it all together in order to just make it one big happy family.
I can see that if they were bringing in Muslim references, Hindu references, Buddhist references, but it didn't. Oh. And again, that's why again I push back on this conclusion that they're creating this hodgepodge or cornucopia is kind of what you're looking at as far as the term.
Oh,
so that's
Billy.
Yeah. So I'm not sure about that, man.
If you were to be as kind as you could be, and having the LGBTQ trying to bring in stuff dealing with Muslim, you're not going to get a good response, period. That's why they stayed out. That's why they wouldn't bring it in. As far as why they wouldn't bring the other ones in, let's face it, the Christians are the number one attacked religion, because they do turn the other cheek in most cases.
I would disagree with you on that one. I would completely disagree. Yeah.
What do you think beats that?
Jewish religion at this point.
So that's like the difference between percentage and total numbers.
Yeah.
So when it comes to persecution, because I spent years working for persecuted Christians, the sheer number is bigger, but when you get to percentage of total population, it is absolutely the Jews.
Right, it is. That would be the one.
But so the organizer, the director of the opening ceremonies for the Olympics, his goal was to achieve both tolerance, acceptance, and unity. Okay. So if that was his goal, did he achieve it? That's my question. Number one, I don't think he did. So I think he failed. And then number two, I'm watching 4 hours of this and knowing a bit about French history and knowing the contribution primarily of the Catholic Church and people like Joan of Arc, I'm wondering why it wasn't celebrated. Because there were aspects of French culture that were clearly celebrated, but it seemed to be the pagan aspects of French culture, the menage a trois, the kind of sexual openness, all that. Okay, so we're going to pay a guy $150 million. His goal is to bring about unity. They had to pull the video down because there's so much controversy about it. There's frustrations. You have advertisers pulling. So it seems like he failed. And then when he did highlight stuff, all right, we're going to highlight menage a trois and sexual promiscuity from the French. Why not, in some other aspect, which I didn't see, promote the great contributions of the Catholic Church. And I'm not even Catholic, but I'm a fan of Western civilization, and I believe Christianity is the foundation of where we are as Western civilization. So why wasn't that included? Ron, do you want to respond?
I would tend to think that the simple answer, it doesn't fit their agenda. Why would you want to add something like that is not going to fit what they're trying to say? Obviously, they do not care about the Christianity, because there are some very positive, good points that they could have pointed out and that they chose not to, because it did not fit their agenda. The LGBTQ never fits into the Christianity. I shouldn't say never, mostly doesn't fit into it.
Because one thing we'd know is that Jesus would hate the LGBTQ. Question for you, Ron and Jeff.
No, we know.
Yeah, we know that. Of course, we do. Yes, that's what you said. Ron,
you know that.
No,
you
that's
know
not what I know. But that's not the Lord and Savior I follow. That's okay. Okay, so Ron, Jeff, I got a question for you. So let's say that it was a grand celebration of Christianity that evening. Less controversy, more controversy, and would that be appropriate inside an Olympic ceremony?
See, Bill, that's what I don't understand. When it fits your point, you're able to bring something in. When I tried to bring in Muslim, you're saying, well, we can't go off of the ifs and what if, but yet you turn around and do that. As far as with the Christianity, I
play with your hypotheticals.
What if it did.
I do play with your hypotheticals when you bring them up, and this is a hypothetical. And it's a hypothetical. And Jeff and you were just talking about how there should be more representation of Christianity inside of the opening ceremonies. What do you think the reaction would be if there was a focal point on Christianity inside of those opening ceremonies? Would there be more or less controversy? I'm curious. What your thoughts are.
I think there would be less controversy, but my point is just finding interesting that we didn't do it. So I believe Christianity is absolutely central to Western civilization, to modern day France, England, United States, all that stuff. We wouldn't be where we are if it wasn't for Christianity. So why not include that? But you're going to do plenty of other things: menage a trois, drag, Lady Gaga. We're going to mock Christianity, all that stuff, but we're not going to honor it. That's interesting. And you can say, would it be more controversial? Maybe. I don't know.
Ron, what do you think?
Probably not.
What do you think, Ron? More or less controversial?
I would like to think that it would be more accepted and then bring everybody together. Because that is what Christianity does. As far as in your Jesus, we all know the Lord. We all know what he does. We all know, to try to cherry pick and say we know that he doesn't love the LGBTQ is just silly.
No, but that's you
because
said
he
that.
loves anybody and everybody. I mean, because he hung out with all the criminals and the thieves, because the holy don't need to be saved, right? So, the thing of it is, the whole thing was done on purpose, because when you look at the entertainers, at least so far, I don't know if they're planning on bringing anybody else in to change things around. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, Lady Gaga, while she's a great singer, it's like we know where she stands. We know her whole personality. And I don't know. I would have to say this. Celine, did she perform? I heard that she performed at the end or something.
Yep, she did.
Yeah. And so, she's probably one of the least controversial, I would say. I mean, I'm sure she stays, for the most part, quiet on her beliefs. But the whole package, when you look at the whole thing and the percentage of what was LGBTQ, is a majority of it was meant to be the way it was. He did not want anything good in it, and it proved it. I mean, and look what happened. Look how many people are pulling away from it. People are wanting to boycott it. People don't want to watch it. They don't care what's going on. LeBron James may not be able to bring the people to start watching it right now because of what happened. So, it's guys. I mean, you guys are awesome. I love the way you guys create the controversy and the great stories and everything that you guys are doing on this. It keeps people interested. And
thanks, Ron, man. I appreciate it. That. Ron's line will be open 303-696-1971. Text messages absolutely blowing up on this one. Everything from, come on, guys, you Christians are supporting Donald Trump, and now you're pearl-clutching faux outrage over this. That's Tom from Denver. To, come on, Billy, they did this on purpose. They're denigrating the Last Supper by crowding it out with their lifestyle and trying to show that they can snuff out Christianity and force their lifestyle on the rest of us. All right, give us a call, 303-696-1971. We'll continue with this conversation. I want to talk to you about advanced hair restoration. Look, you know the Jeff and Bill Show is the top-rated talk radio show by Westward. Well, our friends over at Advanced Hair Restoration are the top-rated hair restoration company by Westward as well. Everyone always asks, what makes advanced hair restoration different? First off, Advanced Hair stands by the results. Their before and afters are second to none. With Advanced Hair, your own natural hair is guaranteed to grow. Secondly, Advanced Hair combines top-rated physicians with modern technology, creating a concierge quality experience that's hard to find elsewhere. And lastly, Advanced Hair's Advanced FUE begins regrowing your own natural hair the very next day. It's quick, it's simple, and easy. Look, I've had family members have this done, and it changed their lives. They looked younger, and as a result, they felt younger, and they had more energy as a result of that. It can really, really improve your life. Now, if you have a flexible schedule this summer, and you've been waiting for that special savings opportunity, it's here. Advanced Hair's summer savings event will get you the most hair for your dollar. It's their best offer ever. For details and to schedule your free consultation, give them a call at 720-459-HAIR. One-day treatment, life-changing results. Your new hair is guaranteed to grow. Before and afters are available at advancedhair.com. That's 720-459-HAIR or advancedhair.com. Phone lines are filling up. We'll get to them next. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. It is a full line morning as we're diving into the Olympic controversy that took place during the opening ceremonies. Anti-Christian or just the promotion of Greek gods? What do you think? Give us a call, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. Let's go to Bill. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Bill.
Morning.
So what I think after a couple of days is that these Olympics were trying to be inclusive, and that one of the knocks of anybody that wasn't just binary against Western religions, particularly Christianity, is that it's all men and that's all there is. And I know that the churches are trying to soften that blow, but what's wrong with showing different people at the Last Supper that aren't accepted in traditional ways? I just don't have the same negative reaction to it.
Yeah, so in part because Christian theology teaches different worldviews than the LGBT community, particularly as it relates to drag, the idea that you can change your gender. I mean, you can't really get through the first few chapters of the Bible without seeing that God created them male and female. So you have Christian theology that's generally opposed to the LGBTQ way of life. And so when you take that and you then take some of the most sacred Christian images and push what the church would deem as heresy onto it, Christians and Catholics and Protestants find that offensive.
Well, and people that aren't included in that. So, and I get, if you take a look at any collaboration of people, if you take the most extreme views, you can always find a way to argue it. But what about the mainstream? I mean, I know gay people who have had to abandon their religion because they weren't accepted there. And so what's wrong with giving them a seat at the table? Maybe it offends you a little bit. And maybe some people see that as a drag show. I didn't. I saw it as inclusive and trying to include people that heretofore had been left out.
Yeah. Do you see it as that, or do you see it as them saying Christianity is wrong?
Well, I'm trying to take a more centrist view. And like I said, I know gay people who were abandoned, were pushed out of their religion simply because, for right or for wrong,
right,
they have a different sexual orientation. And I think we need to allow them a seat at the table and not always take their view and assign it to the people on the most extreme parts of that, which I think I would take exception to as well. But I don't have any problem with non-males sitting at the Last Supper table. I don't immediately jump to the most extreme part of that argument.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the call. Thanks, Bill.
That's an interesting sentiment there that Bill expressed, that it's a deeper layer, and I'm not sure we can get into the conversation now, but there is a question that if just for the conversation, let's just assume, just for the moment, that it was a commentary on the Last Supper. And what I heard inside of Bill's comment there that I think is very insightful is, if we assume that it was a commentary on the Last Supper, is the person putting it together questioning some of your commitment to the messages of Christ based on love, inclusion, and salvation? That they could be, again, I'm not convinced that they were making a statement in any way, shape, or form on Christianity, but for the conversation, if we just assume that it was, it's an interesting critique. It's an interesting question about, you say you're the religion that loves and is more open and tolerant than the Muslim, but are you tolerant? Are you really? Can you tolerate this? It's an interesting question. Again, I don't believe that's the message, but for an intellectual conversation,
for Bill's perspective,
it's curious.
I get his line of argument, but you have to understand, and he goes and says, well, the more extreme elements of Christianity. No, it's kind of foundational to Christianity. I mean, 1 Corinthians 6:9, or do you not know the wrongdoers will not inherit the kingdom of God? Do not be deceived. Neither the sexually immoral, nor idolaters, nor adulterers, nor men who have sex with men. So for Christian theology, central to its understanding of human sexuality the LGBT community and Christianity are at odds. They just have literally reading scripture that says men who have sex with men will not inherit the kingdom of God. So there are differences here. And when you take Christian iconography, icons like the idea of the Last Supper, and then take specifically anti-Christian positions and put it in there, you're going to get pushback. Let's go to Shane, Denver. Shane, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning.
Hi, fellas. I just got a couple points real quick. I believe that leftists are very sneaky, and what they use is subtle messages for plausible deniability. So, for example, the Last Supper, they have a stark reference to Christianity that, in my opinion, is debauchery. And then what they do is they sprinkle in a little bit of Greek mythology to give them plausible deniability. The same could be seen with the assassination attempt on Donald J. Trump. Biden and the left, they deny him extra service, Secret Service. They give him incompetent personnel. And then we get an assassination attempt that we are very blessed that it didn't kill the ex-president. The same can be said for Kamala Harris. She's in charge of the border, and now all of a sudden, now she sneaks her way away from being the border czar, and now she's denying it. It's that plausible deniability the left uses. And then when that doesn't work, the next step they use is temper tantrums. And so, we see Antifa, we see those kind of things happen. And, it worked for a while, but I think now that MAGA is looking at those things, and we call it for what it is, and it doesn't persuade us anymore. So we can't be persuaded that this whole presentation was not anti-Christian, because obviously it was.
Well, could you just, Shane, be seeing this as a Rorschach test? Couldn't you find it offensive because of your perception filters, because of how you see the world, based on, again, some of the statements that you just made about the left throwing temper tantrums and subversion and things like that? Couldn't it just be because of your worldview? You see it this way, regardless of intent, which in all honesty is part of what art is about. Art is partly based on the intent of the creator, but mostly about the impact and the impression on the viewer or person that consumes it. So couldn't this just be a reflection of your worldview? Could it be, as Doug texted in earlier, could it be just a Rorschach test on how you see the world?
I think that some on the left would say it is a Rorschach test, which feeds into the sneakiness aspect of their plausible deniability. But obviously, if you look at the painting and then you compare it to what the presentation was, it's the same. And so I believe that that's a tactic that's used. The thing is, though, it's not working anymore, and we now, as MAGA, we call it out, and so now, we're going to see what happens with this election. They'll still use this plausible deniability. If Trump wins, then we'll have temper tantrums, but then we have to meet it, and deal with it in a law and order manner and be upfront and direct. And so I think that our society is in real danger now because we make things too complicated a lot of times, and that is such an opening for the left to manipulate others and try to get their way, and eventually we live in a Marxist state if we allow that to happen.
Shane, I appreciate the call. We're just out of time. We'll continue. Give us a call. Your thoughts on this? Am I just being an intolerant religious bigot? Or were there intentional efforts to mock Christianity at the Olympic Games?
Yeah,
303-696-1971. Go ahead, Billy.
What am I missing? 303-696-1971. What am I missing? What am I missing about saying this isn't a Christian or even Catholic performance, that this is more of a Greek honorarium, and this is why it was there at the Olympics? That's what the organizer said. What am I missing? Give us a call and tell me why. But you know what's missing in my life right now? Pain. I have been living in pain for years, well over 15 years, every single day of my life. I just figured That's what it's like right now. It's just my back does this. My shoulder doesn't do this anymore. I can't reach up this high over my head. Every day it's going to hurt when I get up and out of bed. Every day it's going to make sure that my knee is going to give out at least twice. That's what I thought my life was. But thanks to the team at Balance Wellspace, that's not my life anymore. Things have changed for me in my life, and it's been nothing short of transformational because they do this thing that they call, integrative medicine. That is a new term for me, but it's the idea of getting a whole bunch of different modalities together in order to make sure you feel good. That's the difference with Balance Wellspace. It is an entire team working on a variety of number of treatments together for you. You go in, you get an evaluation, they put together a custom-made plan specifically for you. And then you're going to go through chiropractic, neuropathy, physical rehabilitation, wave therapy, regenerative care, trigger point injections, and so much more. They also have some amazing cutting-edge therapies. They've got this thing called Synexus, a bunch of suction cups that sit on my back and shock me for like 20 minutes. It's amazing. Absolutely incredible. It fires neural pathways that have tightened up, that have degraded and aren't functioning anymore. I have movement and looseness inside of both my shoulder and my back I haven't experienced for years. My wife was impressed how I was actually pulling weeds over the course of the weekend. She's like, hey, look at that. Because, I was squatting down and I wasn't complaining about my back and I wasn't sitting. I used to have to sit, if I remember Bloom County, Bill the cat. I used to have this odd little clocky thing that I have to sit on the ground and I look like it's some sort of deranged cat from an old comic book. That's what I looked like. I'm not like that anymore. And I want you to experience the difference in your life that they are making in my life. It's a brand new facility in Lowry, right across the street from Hangar 2. So much parking. Couldn't be easier to find. It's over on the west-hand side, balancewellspace.com. Go in, say hi to Dr. Julie, Dr. Jess, Sarah, the entire team. And for me, the difference is I go there once and I get all of these treatments. I can run through 5 or 6 different treatments in one single appointment. That would take me all week, getting in the car, driving to one office, waiting in the office, go and get the treatment, then drive home. The next day, drive somewhere else, waiting in the office. I don't do that. One stop, one place, balancewellspace.com. I want you to experience the difference in your life they are making in mine. Give Dr. Julie, Dr. Jess, and the entire team a chance to show you how you don't have to live in pain anymore. Balancewellspace.com. Balancewellspace.com.
Great to hear, Billy. We'll continue the conversation. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Now, there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts, text message your favorite local hosts, call the show, get the latest headlines, and enter contests to win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show, talking all things the Olympic opening ceremonies, everything from LeBron James carrying the flag. Do you think he was a good guy to do that, to the bizarre, what I thought, mockery of Christianity with the Last Supper? A text messenger pointing out, if it wasn't the illusion of the Last Supper, then it's pure coincidence that the Christ-like figure with the headset just happened to be in the middle of a long table flanked by equal number of folks. The camera angle chose that was head on, just like the Last Supper, not from above or aside. Just a coincidence. Interesting. Let's go to Brian, line 3. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Brian.
Hey, good morning. I mean, this is pretty intentional as far as I'm concerned, to shock and mock. And, you know, raising kids in this era, we're Christians. We've been very, you know, having close personal friends, children come out as homosexual. We've been tolerant. We won't teach our kids to condemn anybody. You know, God loves everybody. And regardless of that, we don't accept it. We don't say that's what we're okay with that, but we don't condemn people. And it's the tolerance that I think we all need to learn. And what's sad is the left and LGBT, they're not, we're tolerant on, you can do whatever you want with whoever you want. I don't care, but they're not tolerant that I don't believe that's okay. And that's where the problem comes in, is it's all about putting it in your face, making you believe something. And here we are, like, we're tolerant. We don't care anymore, but you want to make us believe all this stuff that we don't believe. Well, that's exactly what you're against, is making Christians, making you believe you shouldn't be that way.
Yeah, I understand
but
that,
now
Brian. I understand that.
You're trying to make us believe it's okay.
Yeah, but
it's not.
We heard that during the 70s, 80s, and early 90s, when we're having more acceptance of gay people. That's exact same thing that you were saying was said back then. Oh, I don't dislike gay people. I just don't want to see them in public. I don't want to see them holding hands. I don't want to see them show affection. I don't want to see them in movies. I don't want to see them on TV. Why do they have to do it in front of me? I'm okay with them being gay just as long as I don't see them. That's what I'm hearing too. And that's what I hear with the trans is I'm okay with trans people and I'm okay with LGBTQ as long as I don't have to see them. That's not equality. That's not acceptance. But
real quick, Brian.
Yeah, Brian, if you want to stick around,
we're up against the commercial break. We'll continue with this conversation. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Is that an opening from Star Trek? Lord of the Rings?
Yes, it's Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings.
Yes. They were about to leave, and they were going to have to throw a ring into the giant space in order to save their bull lions.
There's an element of Billy and I's relationship where I feel like we're brothers, and I'm like, I'm just going to rib him a little bit because I know he loves Star Wars.
Yeah. In fact, I was back,
and I never even made it through the first one.
I went back and I was watching, again, I didn't watch the whole thing, but there were pieces of the most recent Star Wars series, The Acolyte. I went back and I wanted to watch because that has been wonderful storytelling. It's new characters, but the storyline that they have set up is wonderful. So I've gone back to see little pieces because they dropped some stuff early on that then pays off later. It was masterful storytelling. It's been really enjoyable. And happy for you. And also, and two of the best lightsaber fights in all of Star Wars history exist inside of the Acolyte. It's really good. Yeah.
You remember that dude that in the early 2000s was practicing with a golf ball retriever?
Yes.
And he became this major.
Yeah, he went viral. Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I have visions of you as a young man.
Oh, that's not young men, nothing. At one point with our kids, when they were all younger, we had not one, not two, not five, not seven, but 10 lightsabers in the front closet. 10 different lightsabers in the front closet because we would have lightsaber battles with the kids in the neighborhood. It was not unusual at 3 or 4 in the afternoon coming home from work to see 8 or 9 kids in our front yard beating the crap out of each other with lightsabers all the time. And I'm out there with them. I got no shame. I'm absolutely out there with them. And of course, we're creating, and we have Jedi and Sith and we go back and forth. And you had to. That's why we amassed so many. When I saw them on sale, I'd just buy them because when the kids were over, you couldn't have a kid left out. You had to have enough for everybody. So everybody got to pick their own lightsaber. Absolutely. Yes. That's how we roll at our house.
I would like to offer a reward of $100 to any video of Billy Thorpe as a young man having a lightsaber battle with his buddies.
So here's the thing. I am so old. I'm so old that I had the very, very first lightsaber that the Star Wars and Kenner Company ever put out.
Do you still have it?
No, I wish I did.
Is it worth anything now?
I imagine it would be, but I played with it so much it wouldn't be worth it in the condition that I had. And here's the idea. Okay, so okay, apologies. I am sorry to our listeners. We're going to go down a little bit of a tangential hole here about Star Wars and what happened in the 70s. They didn't think the movie was going to be any good. Kenner had signed to be the distributor for the toys, but they hadn't ramped anything up. So the movie drops and it is a huge hit. And there's nothing in the stores. You can't get your first Star Wars toy for almost 3 months. They've got some crappy ones that are kind of there, but there's nothing significant at all. And they had to rush a lot of things to production. One of the things they rushed was the very first version of lightsaber. And it sucked. What it was is, and then think about how easy this is for them to produce. It's a flashlight, and they put some stickers on the outside to make it look like it's a lightsaber. But it is just a regular flashlight. Has the little big white switch on and everything. Nothing special. Just it looks like it is a flashlight. They put stickers on, and it's black. Then you have a long tube that happened to be yellow. At this time, are there yellow lightsabers in Star Wars? No, they're not. But they can produce this one quickly. So this is produced. And you have to go and blow up your very own lightsaber blade. So it is an inflatable balloon that you then put on top of your flashlight. And then it has a black sleeve that comes down and hooks on the top. It goes over the top of the blade and hooks on the top of the flashlight. So it holds your lightsaber blade on your flashlight. And then you turn it on and it lights up the inside of the yellow blade. And it looks so cool until you move it or try to hit anything with it. It's a balloon. So it bends. It bends and it wiggles back and forth. And it doesn't look anything like a lightsaber. When you start actually turning the lights off and waving it around in front of the mirror, and I think I've said too much about what I did as a kid. But when that happens, it is vastly disappointing. And every time you hit something, rather than I kill you, it just bends. It goes, Sorry. It was a phenomenal disappointment, but I still respect the hell out of my parents to make sure that this little nerd had the very first lightsaber that was available. And you better believe I was dancing around in the dark with it. And I'm so glad there's no video.
Sounds like those lightsabers needed some Rocky Mountain Men's Health.
Yes, it did. They needed some of the Rocky Mountain Health Men's Clinic. They needed some help there. They needed a little bit of that little blue pill. It was phenomenally disappointing. And as a little kid, imagine that. You're a little tiny kid and you're like, I have my lightsaber. I have a lightsaber. And you turn off the lights in the bathroom because that's the only place you can turn the lights off. You can still see the mirror. So you turn it off and you start swinging it around and you're like, it's bending. There's a little thing in your heart that breaks. But again, it's the only lightsaber you have, so you do the best you can. That's what we did in the 70s. Not like these kids and their tickety-tocks and their smartphones and their... I'm going to rant for a sec. I got to go talk to the phones. Sorry about that.
All right, let's continue. By the way, phone lines filling up. We were talking the previous few hours, and we'll continue the conversation about the opening ceremonies of the Olympics. I mean, this is core to the conversations that our culture is having right now. Was it an offense to Christians? Did they purposely mock Christianity and Christian theology by putting drag queens in the position of the Last Supper painted by Leonardo da Vinci? Or is it overwrought, overblown? We should be celebrating drag. Here's a few things that I point out. Number one is that there seemed to be an overemphasis of that. A lot of drag taking place during the Olympic ceremonies and almost no recognition of the contribution primarily of the Catholic Church. Now, I'm not Catholic, but of the Catholic Church in the formation of France. You go back to the Joan of Arc, you go back to Notre Dame. France is what it is today because of Christianity. And it didn't seem like that was promoted really at all. Instead, lots of drag, lots of LGBTQ. And I think it was meant to purposely offend. Others are going, look, we should honor the LGBTQ community. They've been pushed to the side, marginalized, and France had an opportunity as a Western nation to be able to promote them, and they should. So text messages on all sides of this. We'll continue to get into this, but let's check in first on the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, Jeff and Billy. 70 and sunny in Denver, expecting a high of 98 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story, President Biden will propose term limits for Supreme Court justices today. He'll also push for a constitutional amendment to override the court's recent decision that the president enjoys some immunity for official acts. James Copenhaver was discharged Friday. He's one of the Trump supporters who was shot over 2 weeks ago at the rally. Trump says he will have more outdoor rallies in the remaining months of the campaign. Plenty of people don't think this is a good idea, even though the Secret Service is stepping up, quote unquote, stepping up security. Over the weekend, Trump also addressed the attack in Israel.
I want to condemn the evil attack on Israel that took place earlier today. A missile launched by Hezbollah killed at least a dozen children, young children. And they were playing, as you heard, on a soccer field in Israeli territory on the Golan Heights, a place that I recognized during my administration as under Israel's sovereignty. It was a big thing. We've been trying to get it done for 72 years. I got it done in about 1 hour.
Israeli supporters won't be staging protests, banging drums, or blocking entrances to public buildings in the U.S. They'll be praying and trying to defeat the evil that wants them dead, funded by Iran. Michael Oren.
There's 100,000 people who have been uprooted from their homes, their lives. I'm sitting with people who are engineers and biologists who've been unemployed because all of their jobs have gone away. It is a war zone. It is a disaster area.
Former VP Al Gore is endorsing Vice President Harris. Gore said on X Sunday that she's the climate champion we need in the White House.
That right now is the open sewer for our industrial civilization as it's currently organized.
Then he boarded his private jet. J.D. Vance offended some single women with cats over the weekend after what he said 3 years ago resurfaced. His point was, we're not encouraging marriage in this country. could have said it differently. He told the media over the weekend they're not doing their job either.
The media seems totally uninterested in covering that Kamala Harris said she wants to ban fracking, that Kamala Harris says she wants to give Medicare to illegal immigrants, that Kamala Harris has said that she wants to defund the police, that Kamala Harris bailed out some of the rioters that burned Minneapolis to the ground just 3 or 4 short years ago. You guys have got to do a better job of covering the details and the public policy of this race. And I think if not, you're going to continue to see the approval rating of the media and of Kamala Harris go lower and lower.
Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, a dictator, and opposition candidate Edmundo Gonzalez both claiming victory this morning in the country's election. Maduro is the communist dictator who's helped destroy Venezuela. The country's elections authority said Maduro won with 51% of the vote.
Yeah.
A Jeffco highway is open again after fire crews contained a new wildfire. US 285 was shut down for almost 4 hours on Sunday.
You have rocks and fallen debris, you have wildlife, you have snakes, you have it all. So that's why I really want to give credit to these volunteer firefighters that put themselves at risk to come out here for zero pay.
Flames sparked along the south side of Turkey Creek Road near Morrison, burning grass, shrubs, and trees. Several ground crews and 2 helicopters stopped it from spreading beyond 6 acres. 40 firefighters responded. About 75% of them were volunteers. The sheriff's office went door to door to evacuate everyone in danger. Police think road rage was the motive of a shooting over the weekend. They say a man was wounded Saturday morning on I-25 near the Auraria Parkway exit in Denver, and everyone involved has been contacted. But at last check, there were no arrests. The investigation shut down several lanes of traffic while officers collected evidence. The victim is in the hospital but expected to pull through. 68 in Broomfield, 70 in Littleton, 70 in Denver.
On the ground. Ball game. So the Rockies make some noise in the ninth, but the Giants hold on. They sweep the Rockies in a 4-game series.
5-4, the Rockies lose. Jeff and Bill continue. It's Monday morning. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Here's your 710 5-day forecast. The heat advisory is in effect through tomorrow. It'll be sunny, hazy, and very warm and dry. Mid-90s today, hot, upper 90s Tuesday. Mid-90s Wednesday and Thursday, and temperatures mid to upper 90s on Friday. So it's going to be a hot week with only small chances of isolated thunderstorms. Weather sponsored by branchplanning.com. Secure your future retirement with a reliable income stream. Annuities can provide guaranteed payments, giving you peace of mind. Get a complimentary review at branchplanning.com or call 720-651-9800. Meteorologist on day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
All right, lots of text messages. We're diving into this issue over the Olympics. Let me give you just a brief overview of where some of the differences may occur here, okay? So text messages saying Christianity is exclusionary, it's bigoted, it's mean to gay people. Others saying that the LGBT community wants to hate Christianity and is pushing back on that. Let me give you just kind of a brief, real quick understanding of Christian theology so you can understand why there's these debates happening, okay? So Christian theology looks at why we have sin in this world, right? Starts there. Why do we have pain? Why are there things that go wrong? Why do we naturally want to rebel against God? At first, you had the giving of the law, right? So Moses, 10 Commandments, all those rules that came down, okay? Now, Christianity doesn't disregard that, but it fulfills it. So what do I mean by that? So there's essentially 3 ways you can live your life to deal with the problem of sin in this world. One is called just giving into your flesh, right? Which is, well, you do you. There is no God. And if there is God, he's probably not that interested in you and he's far away. So just go live your life the way you want to live it. That's called in Christian theology, kind of just living according to the flesh. Then you have living according to the law. And that's the idea of to be right with God, to fix it, you got to follow all these rules. Okay. And originally our Jewish friends were kind of set up that way, right? Lots of rules. And if you look at the context that Jesus came into, he came into a lot of rules, and it ended up being rules upon rules upon rules upon rules. And in the midst of that, Jesus is pointing out during his earthly ministry that we've lost the notion of God's love. So for instance, working on the Sabbath, Jesus got a very angry reaction from the Jews at the time because of the idea that he had healed somebody on the Sabbath. And Jesus is reminding people, no. The Sabbath was not made for people, but people were not made for the Sabbath, but the Sabbath was made for people. We could do good. So God, through Christ, reminds people about love, about compassion, about forgiveness, that the law had kind of excluded people out of. Think of the woman caught in adultery, right? They're about to stone her, about to throw rocks at her. And Jesus steps in and says, those without the first sin, throw the stone. And then Jesus forgives her. But Jesus does not forgive her into flesh. Remember, he says, go and sin no more. So Christianity exists at this very unique place where it says, yes, the rules matter, but so also does love. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because we got a text message about how Jeff, you're coming across as very rule-oriented and Billy's coming across as both love-oriented. And yes, Christianity is both of them. It doesn't get rid of the law because the law comes from God and it guides us on how to live a good life. But it is also through love and forgiveness and compassion that Christianity invites people into a relationship with God. And then you have Christ's forgiveness and atonement on the cross that brings us back into a perfect union and solves that sin problem with God. That is kind of Christian theology. So how does Christianity look at an issue like LGBTQ and the Olympics and all that stuff? Well, traditional Christian theology would welcome a gay person into the church, say God loves you, but would not call them to indulge their flesh, would say follow the rules of sexual activity, that sexual activity takes place within the confines of marriage. That is kind of the fullness, very quickly, of kind of Christian theology on all this. All right, let's go to the phone lines. Francis, line 1, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning.
Hey guys, hey, stay cool today. It's gonna be hot as heck.
It is.
Yeah. But that's hey, obviously, I look at this thing, the opening ceremonies. First of all, I really like the opening ceremonies overall. I really enjoyed it, but it was obviously gratuitous, a swipe at Christianity, and it was unnecessary. But this is what happens when you have kind of people who they follow the old maxim of if you don't have character, be one. That's kind of how they operate. But the thing that bothers me almost as much is that why are people letting this get to them so badly? I mean,
yeah.
When did people become such wilting lilies here that they're offended by everything? I mean, look, I look at that sort of thing, and I can almost find humor in it. Honestly, I can. I think it's kind of fun to look at and get a chuckle out of. But I'm not offended by it. I mean, why would I give this little display, these displays, and Dionysus and the Last Supper and everything else, this much power over me? I elect to not be offended. How about growing a spine here? Don't give it power over you. You have power over it. Take some agency here and buckle up, Buttercup. It's not that offensive.
That's interesting, Francis. And I kind of was looking at some of the same answers when people were talking about the Muslim religion, and when people were saying, oh, well, what if this was a Muslim religious depiction, and how angry and violent that response would be. And the first thing that my mind went to was, well, that's just an easy way to manipulate people of that religion. If I know that I can get you angry by doing this, then it is completely within my power to manipulate your emotions and your direction in your life at any point in time that I want. And that's giving me, a non-believer, a whole hell of a lot of control over your life. So I can see that one. I can agree with that. Now, do you think, what about Doug earlier on talking about the idea this is a Rorschach test? Do you believe that this portion of the opening ceremonies that we're talking about, where some people are seeing Last Supper, some people are seeing something else, is a Rorschach test based on an individual's belief rather than the intention of the creator at the ceremonies?
You know, I don't really. I think that there was an intent here to get a rise. I don't think it was necessarily a Rorschach test. I think that they just, I think they put displays like the Last Supper thing in there and covered it with, you know, a Dionysus and something else, but it was designed to kind of give it a little bit of cover, is what I think. I think there was intent there to poke a little at the Christianity.
That's interesting.
I just think so. I don't think it's a Rorschach test. It may have had that effect on some people, but I think there was intent behind it.
Now, that's interesting, Francis.
It could be a little bit of both.
I can see that if you were talking about, because again, I'm of the opinion that it was more intentional towards the Greek celebration, given the fact that it was the Olympic ceremony. It just would make more sense to have a Greek reference in the opening ceremony for the Olympics than to have a Christian reference or a Muslim reference or a Buddhist reference or a Hindu reference. It just seems that it would flow. But if they were trying to do something like poke fun for a second or create controversy for a second, or in many movies and things, Easter eggs, if they were trying to create that one moment and said, okay, guys and ladies and everybody else on the stage, when we're going to pan here, and they put them into the setting or just into the poses that for a moment are representative, or at least gives an illusion of the Last Supper. I can see that. I could see them trying to do that just to try to be controversial, because the French tend to like to do that. They tend to like to press that boundary just a little bit and see what happens. The other thing, Francis, that really ticked me off was the person in the center that everyone's talking about being Christ, possibly Apollo. Yeah. She's supposed to be the DJ. She wasn't doing crap. I mean, I've got DJ friends. There was nothing. I mean, she's in mixed nothing. She barely got her fingers onto the board. I'm like, show me you're a DJ. That's the one part that bothered me more than anything else.
Francis,
the fact that she wasn't DJing nothing.
I'll tell you why I think Christians were frustrated by this, because it's an ongoing effort to push Christianity out of the public square. Okay, and I'll give you a few examples. Okay, one, if you're a Christian who's active in politics, you're quote unquote a Christian nationalist. All right, we can put rainbow flags up in every classroom, but if we put the 10 Commandments up, well, that's a violation of church and state. In June, every corporation embraces the rainbow flag. Okay, it is constant. It is an effort to push a new worldview upon American culture. And I think Christians rightfully feel that the Christian worldview is being pushed out of the public square, condemned. And then when you see the Olympics mock Christianity and overtly promote the LGBTQ agenda, it just continues that pattern. Your response?
I can't argue with you. I think there is a general intent to try to do that, to push Christianity to the back. My response to that is that, once again, something like this doesn't further that purpose, in my opinion, if that is the reason behind it, because I don't give it any power over me. I seriously look at that Last Supper thing and think like, oh, that's kind of stupid and a little bit humorous. I mean, I felt it was as funny as it was anything else. I don't. To me, it was almost like looking at it was a version of the life of Brian, only in a very little brief diorama there.
Interesting.
It didn't bother me. As a final thought here, if it helps anybody, and this is the name of the parish that I attend, that, the French, how can you take seriously a group of people whose most famous war hero was a teenage girl who dressed in drag?
Yep.
She was a warrior, though, Francis.
Does that help make people feel better? I mean,
a little lighthearted levity. No, I appreciate it. Great
Nicely
call,
done,
Francis.
my friend. Nicely done.
Great call, Francis from Golden. Although she was And to be fair to Joan of Arc, I think she was fulfilling God's call on her life, not trying to make a statement that you can change your gender. Look, if you are considering selling your home, go with the team that is not only going to give you the top level service, but also going to help you earn more from the sale of your home than any other agent. Gay Ribble is proven to get more for her sellers because they have ready buyers looking for a home in your area. They don't just make this claim, but they can sit down and actually show you a list of over 14,700 buyers. This gives you an immediate advantage. Sure, you can hire any agent to sell your home, but isn't it all about how much you put into your pocket after closing? And Power Home Team specializes in making sure you make the most amount of money. They will sell your home at your price, or Gay will buy it, guaranteed. Reach out to my friends and realtors at Gay Ribble and the Power Home Team at Keller Williams by calling 833-301-SOLD. Or go to gayasthebuyers.com. That's GAYE hasthebuyers.com. All right, let's get to Terry. Terry, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning.
Morning. The previous caller kind of stole some of what I was going to say, but even if it was done intentionally, so what? Are we so weak that we can't allow other people to have an opinion and to proclaim that? We get plenty of ability to proclaim it. You have a radio show. I don't. You get to proclaim what you want a lot. The other point I want to make is it's in the Bible that the world will hate us and mock us if we're Christians, right? So why are we shocked at that? Christianity is a personal walk with Jesus. It shouldn't have an effect on how you interact with the world to make them do what you want. You should act with the love and the grace and the forgiveness that God gave you, not you do this or you're going to hell. That's wrong. My preacher tells me quite often, proclaim the truth always, testify always, but use your words as a last resort. It's your actions that show if you're a Christian or not.
And I understand that. I think the point being, though, that Christians have a right to speak out against that type of mockery. There's no call to violence. There's no, anything like that.
Absolutely. I'm not saying don't preach against it, but to be mad and to let it have so much power over you and be so weak like a snowflake and melt when somebody is against you, when the Bible says they're going to be against you. How is this a shock?
No, that's a great point. That's a great point, Terry. No, I appreciate the call. Terry from Lubbock, Texas, pointing out, Christians, it's going to happen to you. Learn to turn the other cheek.
Yeah, and it's almost, again, what Francis was talking about earlier is that if you give the other people the power to anger you, to hurt your feelings in that way, you're giving up agency in your own life. And I appreciate Terry from listening all the way from Texas. That's awesome. That's fantastic. And yeah, the idea of, and again, I grew up as a nerd. You had to kind of get to a point in your life like that where you couldn't have what other people said and felt about you impact who you are and how you felt about yourself. You couldn't let somebody else determine who you are or what you believe or your faith. And I kind of feel that as well, that if someone else's representation of this causes you such anger and offense, that sometimes says more about you than it does about anything else. Yeah.
I also too think that, and Terry granted that these are cultural conversations. What are we as a culture? What are we uplifting? What are we embracing? What are we supporting? And when things are uplifted in our culture that are opposed to traditional Christian theology, it's the right of the church, and I think the responsibility of the church to help guide the culture back in the right direction. So I think it's fair for them to be able to speak out. All right, want to talk to you about my friends over at QC Kinetics. Pain from arthritis is just awful. Bone on bone, constant pain. It robs you of so much of the stuff you love to do. But there are effective ways to deal with that pain. And I'm not talking about drugs or surgery. There are exciting new cellular therapies that can get you lasting relief, and the place to go, QC Kinetics. QC Kinetics uses cutting-edge treatments that accelerate your own body's healing properties, revitalizing your joints so you can move again. If you're living with chronic pain from arthritis or injury, You need to know that steroids and surgery and pain pills are no longer your only options. Learn how QC Kinetics can use advanced regenerative medicine to treat the pain, enhance your joints, restore your mobility, and give you long-term relief with no downtime. The local medical professionals at QC Kinetics are ready to help you get your life back with regenerative, restorative cellular treatments for your achy joints. This is the future of medicine. Call for a free consultation now. 303-900-8986, 303-900-8986, with locations in Aurora, Superior, The Springs, and coming soon to Highlands Ranch. Also, I've had family members that have gone under the knife for surgeries, knee surgeries. It is such a long and complicated process to recover from that. Give QC Kinetics a try today and see if they can save you from that pain and long-term problems. 303-900-8986. We'll continue with your calls and texts. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Now, there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts, text message your favorite local hosts, call the show, get the latest headlines, and enter contests to win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today. Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Now, there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts, text message your favorite local hosts, call the show, get the latest headlines, and enter contests to win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today. Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Now, there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts, text message your favorite local hosts, call the show, get the latest headlines, and enter contests to win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today. Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Now, there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts, text message your favorite local hosts, call the show, get the latest headlines, and enter contests to win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today. Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Now, there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts, text message your favorite local hosts, call the show, get the latest headlines, and enter contests to win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
Well, thank everybody for that great conversation. That's happening nowhere else in this state. Really?
Yeah. Who else is going to tell you about Christianity and the beliefs with LGBTQ and how it blends with our society? Nobody but my partner here. I mean, you're not going to hear this stuff anywhere else. Not just in town, nowhere else, across the nation.
No.
We're going to have these kind of conversations.
And I appreciate everybody calling in and texting and being part of that. And people fell on all sides of that. They agreed with Billy. They agreed with me. They disagreed with both of us.
And
so
some
there
really
you go.
interesting text messages. Some really interesting thinkers.
A lot.
Yeah. Really nice. It's been fun today. Yeah.
In the 9 o'clock hour, we're going to host, speaking of controversy, the Colorado Republican Party. Both Ted Harvey and Steve Peck are going to join us separately. Ted Harvey is a supporter of Dave Williams. We'll hear from him in the 9 o'clock hour. And then around 9:30, Steve Peck, chairman of the Douglas County Republican Party. And they're going to give us updates on what happened over the weekend. And it was kind of a big nothing burger because the court stepped in and said that the meeting to try to oust Dave Williams, not legal. So they can't do that. And that's what Ted Harvey said.
Yeah, that's what he'd said on the show, was that they aren't going to be able to hold this meeting because it's going to be it's not going to follow the bylines of how to hold a meeting and what's proper and everything else.
So that didn't happen. And now they're just going to wait till August. So here's my question to those that want Dave Williams out.
Yeah.
All right. You got between now and August. You're going to apparently you're going to try to place the guy 2 months before the election, which is interesting.
So they're pulling a Kamala. That's what we're doing. We're going to call it a Kamala for now.
What are you going to do to defeat Democrats? All right, so you don't like Dave Williams.
That's a good point.
You don't like him. Well, that's secondary to the fact that we've got to stop Democrats. As a Republican, we've got to stop them in November. So what are you going to do? Are you just going to sit around here and get angry about Dave Williams and pound the table and tweet and write little articles in the Gazette? Is that what you're doing to try to stop the Democrats, who are the actual problem? You can believe that Dave Williams is a problem, but that's a secondary problem.
Now, that's an interesting question, one that we've kind of danced around a little bit. And I appreciate your insight. And I'm going to change this into a bit of an analogy that our listeners are probably going to connect with a little bit better, because some may not be part of the Colorado GOP. Some may hope the Colorado GOP falls apart. Let's talk about NFL teams. Let's talk about the Denver Broncos. If we get to a point in a season where we don't feel the team's going in the right direction, a head coaching change may be a necessity. But the problem always is, and we have this, it's much more fun in the international soccer world. It's much more fun because this happens all the time because they throw coaches out all the time. The question always is, who's next? And the change for change's sake isn't always a positive. And fans will scream very, very loudly when the team is not doing well. We've got to have a coaching change. But who that is isn't always self-apparent and might not even be better. There have been some conversations I had last season with soccer friends of mine about, okay, yeah, you're unhappy with your coach, but who do you get? Who's sitting on the bench? Who's not involved right now that you could pull in that is going to get you to where you think you need to be? And that's a huge
great
problem.
Point. And I will tell you the most compelling answer to that question, Billy, was Eli Bremer. Out of all the interviews I've had so far, Eli had a plan on what he was going to do as the leader of the party, who he's going to bring in, how they were going to do it, and then he was going to leave 6 months later. So it was compelling, but it's the only one I've heard. I think Steve's got a plan. We'll ask him about that during his interview.
And what else could happen is, and again, this is, I can't believe, apologies to our listeners, and I'm going to make another soccer reference, eye-rolling engaged. That is the Ralph Ragnick problem. And again, you won't know the reference.
Nope.
Ralph Ragnick.
Is that Star Trek?
No. Ralph Ragnick, European coach, and known as the professor in Germany for a long list of reasons. But he came in and recently, 2 seasons ago, took over Manchester United briefly. He was an interim manager. He came in and said, guys, this is what we're going to do. We're going to play this way. This is the team structure. We're going to do this. And I'm just doing this to the end of the season. And that's kind of what Eli Bremer was saying. Guys, I'm going to come here as the head coach. Here's our plan. Here's our structure. This is what I want to do to the end of the season. some of the players said, no, and didn't put in the effort. And you could see it on the field when they were supposed to be in a certain structure, defensively or offensively. The players were out of position. They acted as if they didn't know what to do. They hadn't done the mental work on the practice field to execute the system. So Ragnick failed, not because he wasn't good, but because the people inside. And I would be worried that there could be some people that are Dave Williams supporters inside the Colorado GOP hierarchy,
Billy,
that would then slow walk what Eli's doing.
I totally agree with you on that. To that point, this is why I get a little frustrated. With the kind of just get Dave out, go get him out. I'm like, okay, well, what about his people?
Exactly.
You're ready to just be like, throw them all. And I'm not talking about his immediate team, but all the people that like his policies, like his bold conservative leadership, and are like, what? No, we may disagree with some of the tactics, but what about them?
Yeah.
And so that's why I feel like we just continue the cycle.
Yep. Here's an example, the perfect example that Broncos fans will know. Let's jump in the Wayback Machine and remember the Tim Tebow era. Let's remember the Tim Tebow era and talk about the wide receivers. Wide receivers were expected to be blockers. The wide receivers in the Tim Tebow era were expected to go out there and to do more blocking than ever catch passes. And that's not how you get paid. That's not how you raise your stock. That's not how you become a star in the NFL. So wide receivers in Denver during the Tim Tebow era were pissed. They were not happy. And could you have a situation where Eli comes in and you have players like the wide receivers in the Tebow era and go, well, this sucks. This isn't going to work. And you could see it on the field sometime where they would run out to where they're supposed to be and go, oh, look, he got away from me. I couldn't block. And not put on all the effort, not finish the play. That could happen.
Here's a really good point from Lori. She goes, to be honest and frank, at this point, it doesn't really matter anymore. Candidates have been working hard without them and have no dependence on them for any help with campaigning or fundraising.
Wow.
State GOP leadership at this point is irrelevant, Lori says.
That's not good.
And if that's the case, that's very sad and heartbreaking. And I understand there's fundraising structures that make that a reality in the sense that you can only give a certain amount to the state party. They don't nearly have the amount of money and the candidates have to raise, and then you have PACs and all that stuff that are involved with it. But that's just a sad commentary.
That really is a sad commentary because it basically allows conservatives and members of the GOP to give up and say, well, it's not going to get any better because it is so broken. And then the other question on the other end of that is, can you fix it? Is Dave Williams going to be the fix? Is this going to get better on the other end? Or can someone else come in and actually fix it? Or is the trust broken? That's awful.
We're going to get into all of this and more in the 9 o'clock hour as we hear directly from the Dave Williams camp and those seeking to oust him. You're not going to have this on any other show here in Colorado. Both sides, 9 o'clock hour. They're not debating each other. There'll be one after the other. I didn't ask them to come into a debate, but I asked them to come on the show and give us an update on how things are going. So,
Jeff, I did want to tell you, I did check down the hall. Program director's not here yet, and the sales manager's not across the hall yet. So we've got a little bit of a window if you want to do You Choose the News.
Yeah, up next, coming up, You Choose the News. You know who would be great in leading the state? I would absolutely get behind Dan Caplis and Dan Caplis Law.
Oh, heck yeah.
I've known Dan for well over a decade. He's pro-life, pro-family, pro-America, strong in his Catholic faith. Dan suggests you should choose a lawyer who shares your values because who you choose to represent you in an injury case says a lot about you to everyone involved in the case. Dan Caplis is the son of a police officer and a former seminarian who's dedicated the last 40 years of his life to helping people who are hurt in serious motor vehicle crashes. But more than that, he's a titan in the courtroom who gets victories done. Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. He's so trusted that Dan Caplis Law is the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. And he's a serious firm for serious cases, which means He's not just reserved for the rich and wealthy. Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. If you need Dan's help, give him a call at 303-770-5551 or hit dancaplislaw.com. That's Dan, CAPLIS law.com. When we return, you choose the news. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Let's do it. Billy, you choose the news.
Yes, it is that time of the morning where we take our career to our very sweaty hands. We are putting up between the lines to play this big radio news game show with you. You choose the news. We ran down the hallway. Program director's not here yet. Sales manager's not across the hall yet. Don't know what he's doing. So we have a moment of respite here. Yes, time to do the silliness. Blake Olson and Jeff Hunt joining me for You Choose the News. Everybody's favorite fake radio news game show. I have scoured the interwebs for mere moments this morning to find really dumb stories about us humans, giving them even dumber headlines to play this fake radio news game show. And again, remember, it is proudly not sponsored by Rollout Shelves. They are a wonderful mother-son team that will come to your home and give you a free in-home estimate to solve your clutter problems. Bathroom, kitchen, it doesn't matter. Basement, garage. But the one thing they will not tolerate is stupidness, like what we're about to engage in. So again, rollemoutshelves.com, and they'll take care of you. Alrighty, gentlemen, here are your headlines today. Headline number 1, be more happy. Headline number 2, surprise twist. Headline number 3, giving it your most. And headline number 4, walk like an Egyptian. Mr. Hunt, your choice, sir.
Walk like an Egyptian.
Yes, walk like an Egyptian. That's what a Belgian tourist recently had to do, and that's had him end up in the hospital. The 42-year-old was a tourist at Death Valley recently. He was wandering along these sand dunes. Temperatures, though, rose above 118 degrees ambiently, and that was a real pain when he lost his flip-flops. He lost his flip-flops on the sand dunes and tried to walk out. Temperature on the sand dunes, north of 180 degrees.
Man.
His feet melted. The bottom of his feet were absolutely charred. They were over third-degree burns. People had to carry him into the hospital. He couldn't walk. And yet again, it's over 100 degrees. He's in Death Valley and decides to go hiking on the sand dunes in flip-flops. Yeah, he's a Belgian person, but still, that's just not good. Not good at all.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. Just so many choices there that were bad. So many. Yes, it does hurt. All right.
But why wouldn't it burn your feet when you walk on hot coals then?
It has to do with the amount of time, and this is the thing, has to do with the amount of time that your skin is in contact with the heat, because it takes a certain number of seconds. And I only know this because as a kid, when I would go to a wilderness camp, we had a guy there that would take the hot coals out of the fire and put them in his mouth.
Oh, no.
And he would show you how he would do it, and he'd put it in his hand. And it's the idea that it takes a certain number. It's like a quarter of a second or something for the burn to actually happen. So as long as you continue to move it, you're going to be fine. I know.
No, there you go. Okay.
Learn something new every day.
You were going to say you did it when you were a kid.
Oh, I did it. Alrighty. Blake Olson, what's your choice, sir?
Let's see. Be more happy. How about
Be more happy. Well, champagne sales have fizzled out this year, and the CFO of luxury holdings company LVMH, they own brands like Louis Vuitton and a whole bunch of expensive champagnes. They say we are not happy enough to celebrate anything, and that's why sales of champagne have gone down 12% this year. We are not happy, not because the champagne's too expensive. It's not that at all. Not in any way, shape, or form. No, that's not how it happens. Jeff Hunt, as we are closing down this hour, your choice, sir, surprise twist or giving it your most?
Give it your most.
Yes, give it your most of your hand. Would you give up a finger to go play in the Olympics, Mr. Hunt? Would you give up a finger? Give up a digit? Well, that is exactly what Matt Dawson did. Matt Dawson is an Australian field hockey player. A couple of weeks ago, he broke a finger in practice. Surgery, rehab, he'd missed the Olympics. He said, cut the finger off.
No way.
Yes, knuckle up. They cut his finger off. He's playing in the Olympics. He gave up a finger to go to the Olympics. Yes, that's a tough guy. All righty, back to you, gentlemen.
That is a tough guy. All right, we'll be right back. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Now, there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts, text message your favorite local hosts, call the show, get the latest headlines, and enter contests to win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
This is going to be a fire hour on the Jeff and Bill Show. You're not going to want to miss it. We're diving into the Colorado Republican Party brewing civil war. What happened over the weekend? We're going to get updates from both sides. But welcome. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Billy Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, center. It's a beautiful day in the greatest country in history, and we're gearing up for a whole nother hour of engaging discussions, critical analysis, and most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab one more cup of coffee, Denver, and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Let's check in on the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Good morning, Jeff and Billy. 77 and sunny in Denver, expecting a high of 98 today. The 710 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story.
I've heard young leaders talk with me about a term they've coined called climate anxiety, fear of the future and the unknown, of whether it makes sense for you to even think about having children, whether it makes sense for you to think about aspiring to buy a home, because what will this climate be? We have confused the idea that to achieve safety, you put more cops on the street.
The crazy campaign continues.
So whiny. Oh, my.
But then she'll get tough today in whatever she does today. Kamala Harris thinks police don't make communities safer, and climate change is preventing young people from being productive.
Nobody in this administration has been fired for any of the crises or debacles created by the Biden-Harris administration. They simply are not doing the job of running the executive wing of our government. They don't do that. And so that's how you have this incompetence that is allowed to continue to proliferate throughout the Biden-Harris administration. That's why we're glad Joe's gone, and she doesn't need to be anywhere near the Oval Office, or this level of incompetence will continue.
Byron Donalds from Florida, President Biden, who still is the president, will propose term limits for Supreme Court justices today. He'll also push for a constitutional amendment to override the court's recent decision that the president enjoys some immunity for official acts. Just trying to excite the left, and that's what they will talk about today. Former VP Al Gore is endorsing Harris. Gore said she's the climate champion we need in the White House. James Copenhaver discharged on Friday. He's one of the Trump supporters who was shot over 2 weeks ago at the rally. Trump says that he'll have more outdoor rallies in the remaining months of the campaign. Trump talked about the attack on Israel over the weekend.
I want to condemn the evil attack on Israel that took place earlier today. A missile launched by Hezbollah killed at least a dozen children, young children. And they were playing, as you heard, on a soccer field in Israeli territory on the Golan Heights, a place that I recognized during my administration as under Israel's sovereignty. It was a big thing. I've been trying to get it done for 72 years. I got it done in about 1 hour.
Islamo-Nazis continue to try to wipe Jews off the map. That's what they mean when they chant from the river to the sea. Michael Oren on with Hugh this morning.
There's 100,000 people who have been uprooted from their homes, their lives. I'm sitting with people who are engineers and biologists who've been unemployed because all of their jobs have gone away. It is a war zone. It is a disaster area.
J.D. Vance offended some single women with cats over the weekend after what he said 3 years ago resurfaced. His point was we are not encouraging marriage in this country. He's correct, but he could have said it maybe a little differently. But Harris offended him. Best bite of the campaign so far from Vance.
And I'd like to ask the vice president, what has she done to question my loyalty to this country? I served in the United States Marine Corps. I went to Iraq for this country. I built a business for this country. And my running mate took a bullet for this country. So my question to Kamala Harris is, what the hell have you done to question our loyalty to the United States of America?
That's what I'm talking about. Northern California wildfire is now the largest in the U.S., burning more than 687,000 acres north of Sacramento. A Jeffco highway is open again after fire crews contained a new wildfire on Sunday. US 285 was shut down for almost 4 hours.
You have rocks and fallen debris, you have wildlife, you have snakes, you have it all. So that's why I really want to give credit to these volunteer firefighters that put themselves at risk to come out here for zero pay.
Flames sparked along the south side of Turkey Creek Road near Morrison, burning grass, shrubs, and trees. Several ground crews and 2 helicopters stopped it from spreading beyond 6 acres. 40 firefighters responded. About 75% of them were volunteers. McDonald's second quarter earnings report shows its revenue came in lower than expected. They reported just under $6.5 billion in revenue, below the $6.6 billion analysts had predicted. 73 in Castle Rock, 75 in Lakewood, 77 in Denver.
On the ground. Ball game. So the Rockies make some noise in the ninth, but the Giants hold on. They sweep the Rockies in a 4-game series.
5-4 the final. Rockies lose it. Jeff and Bill continue.
Yeah.
That right now is the open sewer for our industrial civilization as it's currently organized.
It's Monday morning, Blake Olson, and the guys continue.
Well
News
done.
Talk 710 KNUS.
Here's your 710 5-day forecast. The heat advisory is in effect through tomorrow. It'll be sunny, hazy, and very warm and dry. Mid-90s today, hot, upper 90s Tuesday. Mid-90s Wednesday and Thursday, and temperatures mid to upper 90s on Friday. So it's going to be a hot week with only small chances of isolated thunderstorms. Weather sponsored by branchplanning.com. Secure your future retirement with a reliable income stream. Annuities can provide guaranteed payments, giving you peace of mind. Get a complimentary review at branchplanning.com or call 720-651-9800. Meteorologist on day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
All right. As the world turns, the Colorado Republican Party facing a little bit of drama over the weekend. And the guy who called it and said that the meeting wasn't legal even before the courts came out and said it wasn't legal was Ted Harvey. He's a former state senator, and he's going to join us on the Jeff and Bill show. Mr. Harvey, you got this one right. Give us an update on what happened over the weekend.
Uh-oh.
Do we have Ted?
We should. Now let me go check. I don't know what's going on here. Hang on.
All right, we'll continue. They're going to do some technical
discuss amongst
evaluations with Mr. Adam over there. So there's scheduled to be a meeting. Let me lay the groundwork on this. There's a group of about 50, 60 or so Central Committee members. These are kind of the core leadership group of the Colorado Republican Party that wanted to call this meeting. Did we get them back, guys? Okay, we're going to call Ted and see if we can get him on the phone here. Do you need his phone number? Okay. We'll get him up here in just a second. But so there was a meeting that was supposed to take place to call for the resignation of Dave Williams, the current chairman of the Colorado Republican Party, but the meeting was found to be not in accordance with the rules of the Colorado Republican Party and therefore was not a legitimate meeting. They decided to get together anyways and I guess host a session to air their grievances. It was like Festivus, right? Around Dave Williams. So we're working to get Ted Harvey up here in just a second. Hopefully we can get him. We'll see. Billy's working on it.
Got him.
We
There
got
we
him.
go.
All
Yeah,
right.
there's
Ted, former state senator Ted Harvey. Ted, as I mentioned, you called this last week when we hosted you on the show, saying that this meeting was not legal. The courts here in Colorado agreed with you. Give us an update on what happened over the weekend.
Well, as you know, as I said last time we talked, Todd Watkins submitted an Excel spreadsheet with a list of names on it saying that these people signed a petition calling for Dave's removal. And I was like, just to defend the Republican Party and make sure that, you know, not everybody in the world is just submitting a list of names and saying this is it. Show us a paper trail that says that these people emailed you or these people texted you. And if you have that, then great. Let's move forward with having a meeting. That's what the state party did when one of the Central Committee members brought forward a list of signatures to say the party should endorse Trump prior to the primary. I personally didn't support that, but that's what she did. And she brought forward emails and text messages showing that that's the way it is. And that's the way we've always done it. And Todd brought it forward saying, here's my Excel spreadsheet of people who do it. And I just objected to that. And Tim Leonard, a former state representative, and I filed a controversy, a complaint with the party, and the executive committee agreed with my interpretation of that. And the executive committee is not appointed by Dave Williams. The executive committee, they are elected by congressional seats across the state and counties across the state. I'm not exactly sure how they all get elected, but it's like 23 members of the executive committee, something like that. And they all agreed with me that this is not the way we should be handling petitions, that you should have signatures or you should have a paper trail. And they agreed with me, and they said that the signatures are not valid, the petition's not valid, and therefore any meeting that is called utilizing these signatures should not be valid. And Dave Williams, Todd Watkins said, we disagree with you. We're going to call our own meeting. It doesn't matter what the executive committee of the Republican Party says. Todd Watkins is the arbiter of what is right and what is wrong, and he went forward with his own meeting. And state party took the executive committee's position and took that to court and stopped the meeting from happening on Saturday. And Dave Williams had already put in place a meeting on August 31st to hear all of these grievances and have a vote. And that is the legal call that the state party put together and allowed Todd Watkins to appeal the decision of the executive committee to the Central Committee. And that's where that should be, is a legally called meeting by the state party. And so that's where we're going to be now, is August 31st will be the official legal Central Committee meeting where Todd can bring his appeal to all of the members of the Central Committee and also bring forward his issue of trying to remove Dave Williams. And they'll need 3/5, 60% of the entire Central Committee to do that. And I'm pretty confident that they don't have 60%, but we'll see. That's where we are. And
you don't expect Dave Williams to step down at all? He'll continue all the way through the completion of his term?
I see no reason whatsoever for Dave Williams to step down. You remember, this all started when Dave Williams sent out an email pushing back against groomers in our school system, boys playing in girls' sports, boys being in girls' basketball bathrooms and locker rooms, and this whole effort to push for the mutilization of young children and sex changes and everything like that. That email went out from Dave, and within days, Nancy Pelosi and her faction of the party were outraged that Dave would stand up for kids, and they started this petition. It had nothing to do with all of the other things they are throwing out now to justify why they are doing this. It all had to do with Dave Williams sending out an email. And I think it's rather ironic. Are those same people just as outraged by the email from Dave Williams fighting for kids as they are at what happened at the Olympics, at the opening ceremony of the Olympics, where you had all kinds of attacks on Christianity from the producers of the opening ceremonies for the Olympics. I think it's rather ironic we're not having that discussion. We're having this fight here today within the Republican Party.
Yeah, I agreed with you, Ted, on that the idea that they were going after him on a particular issue that fell in line with, at the time, the Republican Party platform, that we believe in traditional marriage and that we're opposed to the transing of kids and all that stuff that's taking place out there. But Ted, what do you say to the letter on Friday that came out, where you have Paul Lundeen, Gabe Evans, Valdemar Archuleta, Marshall Dawson, Jeff Hurd, Jeff Crank, and John Fabricatori, essentially all the nominees for the congressional seats here in Colorado, and the Senate Minority Leader calling for Dave Williams to resign? It can't be just simply based on that pride issue.
Right. They keep moving the goalpost, right? At first, Nancy and Todd were outraged over the pride issue. Now you've got everybody else throwing in their 2 cents of why they don't like Dave. And I get the congressional races. Like I said last week, the state central committee told Dave Williams to get involved in the primaries, and those people that didn't go through the assembly process, we wouldn't support. And I agree with that. But then they went one step forward, saying we're going to get involved in races where people don't pledge to support. And I didn't even see the letter that went out, but it was some kind of pledge letter to support the issues of the Republican Party. And those people that didn't sign it, the state party didn't support those candidates. And that really was, that if they're going to be upset, they should be upset at the state central committee that directed Dave to do that. Dave was just implementing what the state central committee said. So I think that nothing Dave has done rises to the level of being removed from office. And I think a lot of this has to do with the fact that he is a conservative that is trying to get the party to opt out of the open primaries, and that he wants to support candidates that believe in the caucus and assembly process.
And Ted, I would push back and say, granted, maybe he's not done anything illegal that would require him to be removed, but he sure has lost a lot of confidence. If all these nominees of the major congressional districts, and even Lauren Boebert, not going as far as they did, but really raising concerns about the leadership of the Colorado Republican Party, what does Dave Williams do between now and August 31st and then the end in November to maintain his leadership, if it looks like so many people in positions of leadership with the Republican Party are calling for him to step down?
Well, it's going to have to raise money. He's going to have to get the vote out. That's the job of the Republican Party, rather than spending money fighting a coup of the party that's wasting a lot of time, talent, and treasure on defending the Republican Party's bylaws and the way the party is supposed to be run. You can't just have people implementing a coup and for no reasons that would fall under the bylaws to remove somebody, and have the state party spending money to defend themselves.
Talking with Ted Harvey, former state senator, on the activities that took place over the weekend with regards to the Colorado Republican Party. So, at this point, I'm sure you guys are counting votes, and I don't think you or maybe Dave Williams. I'm not saying
just telling you what resulted this weekend.
Yeah, gotcha. From your perspective, though, you think Dave Williams finishes the term, and you think Republicans are going to be successful even in light of these problems? You think he can pull people together and get the team going by November and get some victories for Republicans?
Well, they have to get, like I said, they have to get 60% of the Central Committee to vote to remove him. I don't believe they will meet that threshold. and therefore he will stay in office. I think that the Republican Party will pick up seats in the House and pick up seats in the Senate. I think we have a great chance of picking up the 8th congressional district. I hope we hold the 4th. I'm confident we'll hold the 5th down in Colorado Springs. So if we do all of that, and lightning strikes and Trump wins, he will be the most successful chairman in 20 years, because for the last 6 cycles, we have lost 2 or 3 House seats every cycle for the last 6 years. So who should be more critiqued, Dave Williams or the last 3 state party chairs?
Ted Harvey, former state senator, joining Jeff and Bill live, talking about the push to remove Dave Williams from party chairperson. If we're talking about wins and losses, should we have any concern, or should the Colorado GOP have any concern that the majority of the party's endorsed candidates lost in the primary? Does that give the Colorado GOP confidence that the coach is identifying the right players and putting them in a situation to win when the players he chose lost?
Well, again, he didn't choose them. The bylaws of the Republican Party says that the Republican Party will support the candidates who went through the assembly process and not support the candidates who went around the assembly process and petitioned on. That's in the bylaws. So there's plenty of candidates out there that state party, not Dave Williams, state party, per the bylaws, supported because they went through the assembly and their opponents went around the assembly and went through the petition route.
Now, Ted, in the past,
here in Douglas County.
Yeah. How often has the party endorsed in the primary before? How often have they taken this step? Is this regular or is it new?
In Douglas County, it's regular. At the state level, it has not been done.
Okay, so I think it would be a fair. I know, but I think that it would be a fair critique then, since it hasn't been done on a state level, and then Dave Williams went ahead and did it on a state level. It then should be open and fair to critique him.
Not Dave Williams. The state central committee pushed. That's what Dave Williams ran on, and the 406 members of the state central committee elected Dave Williams to defend the caucus and assembly process.
Yeah, but he didn't have to endorse all those candidates if he didn't want to. He could have said, no, state
That's
party.
what he ran on. That's what he ran. That's why I voted for him.
So that he'll do the endorsements.
The caucus and assembly process.
Okay. So, but the issue then being, what does that say about your caucus and assembly process if it's not choosing the people that your primary voters are? Again, you seem to be defending the caucus mechanism and saying, well, it's had to because he had to endorse this. Well, it seemed that your process failed because it didn't choose the people that the primary voters wanted. Is it necessarily go, well, with nothing we can do about this? It seems that you're blaming the failure of it on inaction. There was nothing you could possibly do. I don't understand that.
I'm not blaming anything. The people who are trying to remove Dave Williams are blaming him for defending the caucus and assembly process. I'm not blaming anybody.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Now, you go back to the original email that you cited that said that that's the reason people are always upset and angry about his anti-LGBTQ and that God hates gay people email. Inside of the opening paragraph, first couple of sentences, he labels everybody in the LGBTQ community as groomers. Do you agree that to be fair? Is that a fair critique?
That's not what it says.
Yeah, it does.
No, it doesn't.
Read it. It implies that those in the LGBT.
No, don't give me an implication. Read it.
I don't have it in front of me. I'm sorry. I will see if I can bring it out. I will see if I can bring it up. But he implies that they are groomers.
No, it doesn't.
Do you agree? Yes, it does.
It doesn't. No, it doesn't. It's going directly at those people who are pushing a radical LGBT agenda to put pornographic books in our schools that are trying to groom kids in our public school system starting in kindergarten.
You just called them groomers, sir. You just proved my point. So Ted Harvey, you just proved my point, sir. You just called them groomers. You just labeled that community as groomers.
No, those who
just proved my point. Thank you.
Those that think that putting pornography in public school libraries in kindergarten are groomers.
This is going to be fun.
I
How do you
stand by that
define, this will be
100%.
really fun, Ted Harvey. How do you define pornography? How are you defining that?
The exact same way the Supreme Court has, and they have a 4-pronged test, and the books that are being pushed into our public school systems meet those 4-pronged tests.
Not all the ones that are being banned are not the ones that are objected for. That's untrue. That is
Hold on.
completely untrue.
I do want to get back
completely
to
untrue.
I want to get back to Dave Williams here real quick and the question. Ted, some of the folks, we had Eli Bremer and Steve Peck on recently, and they both said that neither Gabe Williams or Gabe Evans, I'm sorry, or John Hurd have heard from the Colorado Republican Party. Has Dave Williams and the Colorado Republican Party put together a plan to help these guys win their congressional seats?
From what I understand, and I'm not working for State Party, and I'm not speaking on behalf of State Party. I'm just talking about how the process works per the bylaws. But from what I understand, State Party has sent out to all of the candidates, including the congressional candidates, what their plan is, how they're going to spend the money, and how they're going to do their get out the vote effort.
Because the concern that's come from a lot of people is that we're not going to win. We lost a lot during the primaries, at least the state party's chosen endorsed candidates. So what it's demonstrated is that Dave cannot put together a plan to win. The teams with Gabe Evans and with Jeff Hurd have not heard from the state party. And so I understand that a lot of the motivation, or from your side, from your perspective, that the motivation was against Dave standing boldly against the radical elements of the Pride movement, that they want to try to get him out over the open primaries versus...
And protecting the opt-out, trying to protect the state party's effort to opt out, and to protect the caucus and assembly process.
Yeah.
That's why they want to remove it.
And then, but I also see an element that goes, we're just concerned he can't win in November. We've only got about 2 minutes left.
Did they say that about Christy Burton Brown? Did they say that about Christy Burton Brown? Did they say that about Steve Howe? Did they say that about Ken Buck? All of those people undoubtedly lost races across the state, didn't win them, didn't pick up seats. They all lost seats. We went in a negative direction, not a positive direction. But I didn't hear any calls for their removal 3 months before the election.
Right.
Why is that not the case?
So give Dave the benefit of the doubt and let him go all the way to November. And then if things aren't good in November, let the process work its way out.
That's the way elections work. You hire people to do the job, and if they don't do it, then you remove them. If we were going to remove people 3 months before every election cycle because you didn't like what they were doing, we would have had this same argument for the last 4 chairmen.
Yeah.
They've all lost seats.
Ted Harvey, I just want to get my math right. So you mentioned that there were 406 members of the State Central Committee. They need 60%. So that's a number of 244. Is that right?
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
It all depends on what is the actual number of Central Committee members, because people resign, people get replaced, people, for one reason or another, are no longer members of the State Central Committee. But I think the current number is 406.
Great. Well, Ted, you were right about this one. I appreciate you coming on the show to give us an update.
Yep. I do have to say you're asking about it. And in that God Hates Pride email, Dave Williams writes, the month of June has arrived. Once again, the godless groomers in our society want to attack what is decent, holy, and righteous so they can ultimately harm our children. There it is. He called them groomers.
Harm our children.
Yep. But he called them groomers. That was my point. I appreciate it.
Ted, I'll give you the final message.
Those that want to harm our children, those groomers that are out there that are pushing pornography in our public school system are groomers, without a doubt.
Yep, absolutely, Ted. And you should probably check and see who's in prison most of the time for molesting the kids. Because those are not gay or LGBTQ. But, details are tough. But I appreciate the time.
We're just out of time, Ted Harvey. Appreciate the time again today. We'll continue. Coming up next, Steve Peck from the Douglas County Republicans is going to join us on his take on what happened over the weekend. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Now, there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts, text message your favorite local hosts, call the show, get the latest headlines, and enter contests to win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Just wrapped up a conversation with Ted Harvey about Dave Williams, saying they didn't follow the legal ways in an effort to oust him. The courts agreed with him over the weekend, and so they issued a temporary restraining order, I guess, to stop that. And then he says, give the guy a chance. Let him go all the way to November. You're just interrupting Republican efforts by trying to oust him. They're going to do that again on August 31st during the meeting that Dave Williams had called. But I'll be honest, in my, pointing out the fact that pretty much every Republican nominee for Congress has called for him to resign, saying they're not getting the support from Dave Williams. That is very, very compelling, in my opinion. So we're going to talk next with Steve Peck. Steve is the chairman of the Douglas County Republicans and joins us via Zoom. Steve, thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Hi, Jeff. Good morning. Good morning, Bill. Thanks for having me on. There's a bit of an echo, but I can hear you well. Yeah, Jeff, just to jump into it, I know that a lot of people are questioning the timing and all of this, and we touched on this last time I was on your program. The timing is driven by the bylaws. When 25% of the state central committee signed a petition really to request a meeting for removal, the clock got started at that point. I was not original signatory to that 25%. I'm definitely in that camp now. And as I've talked to congressional winners like Gabe Evans and Jeff Crank and others, Jeff Hurd, they are saying that they are not getting the support. So for those Republicans that are out there saying we're in get out the vote mode right now, or will be very soon, agreed. That's why they're so panicked.
So he's going to have a meeting on August 31st now, and you've got to get to 244, according to my calculations, of the 406 to get him out. That's 60%. From your estimation, Steve Peck, you think the votes are there to oust Dave Williams? And if not, is this just a giant waste of time?
I don't know if the votes are there. I think in the conversations I've had, and obviously you just cited the congressional delegation coming out completely calling for his removal, I think that the momentum is growing and people are asking questions. Well, hold on now. What was this meeting under a bridge? What was that about? What is going on with this meeting up in Brighton? They're asking questions because this is not your normal party situation. I think a lot of people are interested in talked about Donald Trump, his vision for the future, the RNC. There's a lot of intrigue around Biden being removed. Obviously, we had an assassination attempt. So I think a lot of Republican State Central Committee members and other rank and file Republicans are slowly asking questions about what is going on with the Colorado Republican Party and why does there seem to be a new interest here. And honestly, I could put myself in that camp. I've been heads down in Douglas County for some time, and it was only after this thing has come to a head that I had to really start asking questions, and I started pulling the string. And the more questions I asked, the deeper it became, the more obvious it became that we have to have a change in leadership. So whether it prevails or not, I don't know. I will say that it's the die has been cast. I had a conversation with the district attorney yesterday who said, the timing's not ideal. And I said, agreed, it's not ideal, but it's the Rubicon has been crossed, and it's either going to happen now or not. And let me throw one other kind of consideration out there for you. On Saturday, and I was at the meeting, there was maybe 100, 120
I was going to ask you,
interested parties.
Give us details on what it was like up there.
Yeah. So I arrived at 9:00, and a lot of my network of people that I know are Douglas County based. I know people here and there, maybe through leadership program of the Rockies around the state, but most of the people I know. So there's a lot of strangers and some mingling there. That we jumped right into it. I would say it was the most. People talk about town hall events. This was a true town hall event. In that there was nothing staged about it. There was obviously we got the news the night before that there was a temporary restraining order, or TRO, that had been put in place, and so that prevented the meeting from the credentialing and gaveling in to make it an official business, right? But then we got a report, 9 News and other news outlets were saying, while we were at the meeting after 9, they said, hey, the party hadn't paid the $1,000 bail, and if that hadn't been paid, then the TRO wasn't valid. And so then there was a scramble to figure out, okay, should we march forward with this? Because people had traveled, they'd gotten hotels, they'd brought proxies. Should we push forward with it? Yes or no? And then, but if they had paid, then, and we gavelled in, then we'd all be in contempt, which would be, we're following the rules. We're trying to follow protocol and the law here. So we did confirm after about 90 minutes of back and forth that the $1,000 had been paid, that the TRO was in place. And so rather than move forward with any official business, this was more of like this was kind of like, do you have a testimony come forward kind of moment? And it was interesting because some of the things that I heard were new information to me. And I'll just give you 2 examples, if I may. One was our national committee woman, Christy Fedora, came up and said that she was advised to stay out of this, to basically shut up and color, that this wasn't her fight. And that was reported by Sandra Fisher from the Colorado Sun. And actually, incidentally, I came over to Sandra and introduced myself, and I said, hey, you don't have to worry about getting thrown out of this meeting. We don't believe in censorship of critics or dissidents. She laughed, of course. But more seriously, our national committee woman, who's just been elected, was basically threatened into having a position on this. And she said, listen, I don't report to anybody here. I was elected, and I respond to my constituents, the people, the Republicans in the state. Then our county chairman in Denver, Roger Rowland, got up and said that he faced retaliation when he was a signatory to the original call for a meeting to consider the question of removal. He was previously on the XCOM. As soon as his signature popped up, he was thrown off the XCOM, and he says it's a clear example of retaliation. And so this isn't just a misguided or disastrous email that went out about the homosexual community. This isn't just using party resources for his own political campaign. This isn't just fighting people who have gone through assembly and won the Trump endorsement and still having money spent against them. All those are disastrous enough. It's also a pattern of behavior and a style. It's a power play politics that does not build coalitions. It does not bring people together. It does not engender trust. And that's why we have to have a change.
Now, just a minute ago, we were speaking with former state senator Ted Harvey. Right now, Jeff and Bill chatting with Steve Peck, chairman, Douglas County Republicans. Ted Harvey told us that all this consternation about Dave might be misplaced, that it is the Central Committee. They're the ones that told Dave Williams to endorse people. They're the ones that wanted Dave to take these hard positions. They're the ones that encouraged this. One, do you agree that this is really the machinations of the Central Committee? Why not? And then, depending on if so, do we then move to, does it basically say that, well, Dave Williams represents the larger feeling inside the power brokers of the GOP? Or do you just disagree with Ted Harvey that this is more of Dave Williams going off and doing this independently and not following the dictate from the Central Planning Committee? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I don't know if it's an either or. I don't know. I can't say that it's all
That's
Dave
fair.
Williams, and it has nothing to do with the state Central Committee. But I will say that the state party chair and county chairs set the agendas, and county chairs have the ability to consider things and not consider things, to lead discussions and lead discussions one way or another. So they can shape the discussion in a way that a rank and file member of the state Central Committee or the state Central Committee can't have. So he has outsized influence, and it's the job of the chairman at the county level to cast a vision and say, this is the direction we're going, this is the strategy we're pursuing. And I would argue that it might have been a little bit of a chicken and egg thing. We have a lot of Republicans, and I'm one of them, that are frustrated with the state of our nation and the state of our state. We want conservative leadership. When we feel like we elect people that get into office and for one reason or another, they don't deliver on what they said they were going to do. And I understand that frustration. Governing is hard. It's really hard. So when people get together, they say, we want to, if this is the best way to get the most conservative candidates, maybe they were misled. I don't know. Maybe they didn't do enough due diligence themselves. But endorsing candidates pre-primary the way that we did is an absolute disaster. And I think that the biggest example of this is Gabe Evans in CDA. I've talked about it, but let me just say it one more time. He went through assembly in a three-way race. He won with 62% of the vote. He got the Trump endorsement. He's an outstanding candidate. He's a vet. He's a former police officer. He's incredibly energetic, young, and articulate. He is the brand, and he can win in CDA. The Cook Political Report has this as a pure toss-up, and our state party took it upon itself to go to war with him. Why? This is so disastrous and
Steve,
so poisonous. And
we're just running out of time here. Last question, real quick. Are you going to continue to seek the role of being a Colorado Republican Party chairman?
Yes. I announced Friday that I'm in. Very quickly, I would end the war against other Republicans immediately. I would absolutely support any and all primary winners. I would focus on 6 to 8 counties that we could build a beachhead on, and I would do everything I could to support the congressional candidates and keep the state Senate.
Steve Peck, chairman of the Douglas County Republican Party, thanks so much for joining the Jeff and Bill Show. We'll continue to monitor this. Looks like the next big news will come out August 31st. When that meeting takes place that Dave had originally called to address all this. Look, if you're considering selling your home, go with the team that is going to not only give you top-level service, but will also help you earn more from the sale of your home than any other agent. Gay Ribble has proven to get more for her sellers because they have ready buyers looking for a home in your area. They don't just make this claim. They can sit down and actually show you their list of over 14,700 buyers. This gives you an immediate advantage. Sure, you can hire any agent to sell your home, but isn't it all about how much you can put in your pocket after closing? The Empower Home team specializes in making sure that you can make the most amount of money. They will sell your home at your price, or Gay will pay you, or Gay will buy it and pay you. Guaranteed. Reach out to my friends and realtors, Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team of Keller Williams, by giving them a call at 833-301-SOLD. 833-301-SOLD, or go to gayasthebuyers.com. That's GAYE hasthebuyers.com. We'll be back with your calls and texts. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
It's been a great show covering all things from the Olympics to the drama in the Colorado Republican Party. We'll continue the conversation tomorrow and dive into Joe Biden and the changes he wants to make to the U.S. Supreme Court. What is this all going to mean for you? If you missed any of it, go to 710knus.com to download the podcast. You've been listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS. Have a good Monday.